fracture of identity is not the moment you begin to dream about another version of yourself. It is the moment you realize that the old version can no longer take you any further. People always think that change begins with inspiration. The truth is that it begins with a crack, a tiny fracture in the shell of the old ego, a discomfort, a faint intuition that you no longer belong to the way of living you have been used to. Every great journey begins from that point. Not from a beautiful dream, but from the inability to tolerate what already exists. You have been through this feeling. The feeling of realizing that life is not a matter of luck, not the result of others, not the story of circumstances. It is the direct result of one single thing. The identity you carry every day. Every limitation is a reflection of who you believe you are. What you dare to do and what you do not dare to do lie within the boundaries of that identity. When the identity is small, life is small. When the identity is fearful, life avoids you. When the identity is bound by assumptions, every door closes. So where does the crack happen? It happens when you stand before this truth. I have not gone further because of the very identity I carry. That is the hardest truth to accept, but it is also the only path toward transformation. Those who do not dare look at it will live their entire lives in the old loop. Those who dare to face it will step into the most important moment of awareness. When you see clearly where your identity was built from whom you learned your fears, where your limiting beliefs came from, what created the role you are carrying, the moment you see that, you are no longer the same. You are pulled away from your comfort zone, even though you have not taken a single step. True change begins from within, not from what you do, but from seeing clearly who you are being. Your identity is not the truth. It is only an old program, a collection of experiences, judgments, disappointments, warnings, old stories. And when that program no longer aligns with the future you desire, it begins to crack. This is why you often find yourself standing before two choices: continue living the same way, or accept that the identity is breaking to create space for another self. This process is not gentle. It brings resistance, retreat, and unease, because the old wants to survive. It once protected you. It once brought you stability. It once was your place of refuge. But at a certain point, it is no longer where you belong. And here lies the deepest truth. No new future can appear if the old identity remains intact. You cannot step into a new life while keeping the old self unchanged. The crack is the sign that you are ready to walk through another door. When you begin to question, when you begin to realize that you want more, when you feel the pull from within, not because the world forces you, but because your own soul is calling. The fracture of identity is life's invitation. It is the moment you see a mismatch between the inner self and the external reality, between potential and actuality, between the truth of who you are and the life you are living. In that moment, you no longer want to live the same way, not because you hate your current life, but because you know you were born to experience more, to step into a higher level of awareness, to live by a different standard. Every awakening begins here. Every journey begins with a single step. I am no longer this person. No need to shout it. No need to declare it to the world. Just a quiet recognition. And then everything begins to change. People often think transformation begins with action, but it begins with refusal. Refusal to keep living the same way. Refusal of old limits. Refusal of the old identity. You do not need to know what the future looks like. You only need to know that you no longer belong to that past. Once this awareness appears, the old identity begins to fracture. And this is the crucial moment. Do not try to patch it. Do not try to tape it. Do not try to save the old image. Let it collapse. Let it dissolve. Let it disappear. Because only when it is gone can your true identity have space to emerge. The fracture of identity is the beginning of rebirth. This is the moment when you no longer ask why you have not changed, but ask what is calling you forward. This is when you begin to see reality as a mirror, reflecting the exact nature of your being. No judgment, no regret, only truth. And that truth leads you into a greater journey, a journey that the old self cannot accompany. And then there will come a moment when you know that you have stepped into a new chapter, not because everything outside your life has changed, but because everything within you is no longer the same. This is the necessary fracture. This is the sacred breaking. This is the point of creation for a greater self. A new life begins here. Decision as the architect of reality is not a philosophical theory. It is the fundamental law of how reality is formed in your life. Everything you are living today is the consequence of a decision made in the past. Not a grand decision, not a dramatic vow, but small and continuous decisions, the choices you repeat every day without even noticing. A person is not shaped by goals but by decisions, not by what you wish for but by what you choose to belong to. Decision is the blueprint of existence. There is a truth no one teaches you. A decision always happens in silence before it happens in action. Before you change your life, you change the direction of your inner world. You cannot step into a new reality while continuing to choose old emotions. You cannot enter a new frequency while carrying old choices. Decision is the spine of every mental movement. It is the cutting off of the old path. It is the moment you no longer allow yourself to return to the starting point. The world does not respond to hope. It responds only to decision. Decision is not a feeling. It does not depend on high spirits or motivation. Decision is the choice made regardless of circumstances, regardless of fear, regardless of doubt. That is why the one who has decided always surpasses the one who is considering. The one who is considering lives in the world of assumptions. The one who has decided lives in the world of action. Between those two worlds lies a vast distance. Decision does not appear when you are certain everything will go well. Decision appears when you accept the risk of not knowing but moving forward anyway. When you no longer need guarantees. When you do not need the world to validate you. When you do not wait for anyone's permission. Decision is the contract with a future you have never seen. It is a declaration to yourself that I will move forward regardless of what is present in the current reality. You have witnessed transformation happening to others, not because they are smarter, not because they are more talented, but because they made decisions you never dared to make. The difference between the one who moves forward and the one who stays still has never been capability. It is the level of decisiveness. The decisive person may fail, but the person who cannot make decisions has already failed from the beginning. Not deciding is also a decision, and it always leads you back to the old place. Decision is the act of the new self. The old self only keeps you in delay to protect its existence. When you decide, you do the most dangerous thing to the old self. You threaten its survival, and that is why it uses every reason to stop you. It tells you that you are not ready. It tells you it is too soon. It tells you to wait for a better time. But the truth is that timing does not decide for you. You decide for timing. Every leap in life happens after a decision others call crazy. You change your job, you leave a relationship, you build your own empire, you change your way of living. All of it begins with a quiet declaration, I choose a different direction. At that moment, reality shifts. You do not need proof before you step. You step and the proof appears. There is a big mistake most people make. They wait for inspiration before they decide. But inspiration is weak. It comes and goes. It depends on external conditions. Decision does not. Decision stands alone. Decision exists, even when you have no motivation. This decisiveness becomes the architecture of change. You do not build reality with hope. You build it with consistent choice. What makes a decision powerful is not the words, but the emotional structure behind it. When you decide, you shift your state. You stop asking why you cannot, and you start asking what needs to happen next. Decision is the mental shift from victim to creator, from the influenced to the influencer, from question to answer. and that begins to change your experience of life. Decision does not require you to be perfect. It only requires you to be honest. When you decide to become someone else, all old behaviors no longer fit. You feel uneasy, you feel lost, you feel lonely, as if everything is falling apart. But that is the sign that reality is rearranging around you. It is not collapsing to destroy you. It is collapsing to rebuild you on an entirely new foundation. The beauty of decision is that it does not need to come from convenience. It often emerges from chaos. In the moments when you are tired, in the moments when you have lost faith, in the moments when everything feels meaningless, but that very chaos creates the crack for light to enter. When everything old is weakening, that is when you make your strongest decision. You have nothing left to protect. You have only yourself to build. Remember this, decision does not require time. It requires clarity in a single moment. You can break a habit that has lasted for years. In a single moment, you can reject an old identity. In a single moment, you can step toward the life you want. Nothing in life is stronger than a decisive human being. No circumstance can stop a person who has decided. No fear can hold someone who has chosen to move. Decision, as the architect of reality, is the reminder that you are holding the blueprint of your life. Not others, not fate, not someone else's energy, but you. Every door closes only because you choose to stop. Every door opens only because you choose to move. Decision is the silent declaration your soul sends into the field. When you choose, the field responds. When you decide, reality restructures. When you act, everything begins to move. Do not wait until you are ready. Decide and readiness will come. Do not wait until you feel confident. Decide and confidence will appear. Do not wait until circumstances change. Decide and circumstances will be forced to change. Decision is the principle of every breakthrough. Nothing comes before it. Nothing is greater than it. Nothing can replace it. Here is the final truth of this part. You do not need to know how. You only need to know that you will. When you make that decision, life responds. New people appear. New opportunities appear. New ideas appear. New resources appear. Reality opens in the direction you choose. Not in the direction you fear. Decision, as the architect of reality, is the gateway of all transformation. It is not loud. It is not grand. It is the quiet yet powerful voice within you. I choose this path. And when you say that to your soul, life no longer becomes something that happens to you. It becomes something you create. The collapse of self-doubt does not happen when you suddenly feel confident. It happens when you look directly at the truth. Self-doubt has never been the enemy. It is only the trace of the old identity trying to keep you where you are. People think that doubt means they are not good enough. But doubt only appears when you are standing at a threshold bigger than yourself. When you move toward a place the old identity cannot follow. Doubt is not a sign that you are failing. It is the first sign that you are growing. Self-doubt does not come from the future. It comes from memory. It comes from the times you were wrong, the times you were hurt, the times you failed, the times you were not reciprocated. Your mind stores all of it as evidence, and then it gives a warning whenever you want to rise to a new level. Be careful. Do not go. Do not try. Do not trust. This is not the voice of the soul. This is the voice of fear trying to protect you from uncertainty. You cannot eliminate self-doubt by arguing with it. Self-doubt does not understand reasoning. It understands experience. It understands habit. It understands repetition. That is why the first thing you must realize is this. Self-doubt does not weaken you. It is only testing whether you are truly ready to cross the old limit or not. Self-doubt wants to know whether you will return to the comfort zone or step into a new space. The moment self-doubt appears is also the moment you are tested. Will you react like the old you, or will you respond like the new you? Doubt only has power when you give it the right to define you. But when you realize it cannot stop, your forward movement, it begins to dissolve. It collapses not because you push it away, but because you have risen above it. You may ask, how do I rise above self-doubt? The answer lies in accepting that doubt is not the truth. It is only a repeated story, a warning constructed from the past, but the future is never born from the past. It is always born from your choice in the present. Self-doubt will try to make you believe that you are not ready, but readiness is not a condition. Readiness is the result of you walking forward, even when you are unsure. When you walk through doubt, you send a new signal into the field. I am no longer living by the old program. I no longer allow the past to decide who I am. Every action you take despite doubt is a stitch that rewires your consciousness. You are rewriting memory. You are building a new identity from the new experiences themselves. Confident people are not confident because they have no doubt. They are confident because they are no longer enslaved by it. There is another way of seeing doubt that very few people know. Self-doubt is not only the resistance of the old identity, it is also the invitation of the new self. It asks you, are you sure you want to step into a higher reality? Are you willing to leave the old stories behind? Are you brave enough to become that person? When you answer with action, doubt collapses. When you answer with waiting, doubt becomes stronger. Remember this: self-doubt cannot disappear if you remain still. It only disappears when you move, when you act, even though your heart is trembling. When you step forward, even though your mind is resisting. When you no longer need certainty in order to move, this is the moment doubt collapses. It no longer controls you. It becomes only a faint echo from the past. Self-doubt always tries to keep you in a loop. You know this loop. The place where you repeat old thoughts, old limitations, old memories. The place where every dream is filtered by the question, what if I fail? But you must understand, the real question is not, what if I fail? The real question is, what happens if I do not move? The only thing certain in this life is that you will repeat the present if you do not break it. The collapse of self-doubt does not happen when you convince yourself that you are better. It happens when you understand that you do not need to be perfect to begin. Every leader has doubted themselves. Every creator has doubted their ability. But they acted, and that very action created new evidence. New evidence created new belief. New belief created new identity. New identity created a new life. Doubt will tell you that you might be wrong. But you must answer with this simple truth: I might be right. When you let this thought enter your mind, doubt loses its power. It can no longer control you. It becomes only a part of the journey, not the wall blocking the way. The collapse of self-doubt is the shift from asking whether you can to asking what is waiting for you on the other side of fear. You do not need to eliminate doubt. You only need to stop reacting to it as if it were the truth. When you stop believing the old story, a new story will emerge. Doubt is no longer the final voice. Your new belief becomes the final voice. You will realize something powerful as you enter this stage. Everything you thought you lacked was never truly lacking. You already have enough, not because you are perfect, but because everything necessary is built in the process of action. Confidence does not come first and then you act. Confidence is born in the very act itself. There is another thing most people do not see. Self-doubt is not a personal flaw. It is the universal nature of the mind. No one goes through a journey of growth without meeting it, but only a few choose to continue despite its presence. Those are the ones who change their lives. Doubt cannot touch a decisive person. It cannot stop action. It cannot break determination. Let this become the reminder within your mind. Doubt is only a door. When you open it, you step into another space, a space where you no longer define yourself by old failures, where you no longer see rejection as destiny, where you no longer let old wounds dictate your instincts. The collapse of self-doubt is the moment you rise above the story your mind has told you for too long. You rise not because you are certain, but because you no longer want to live in the old story. You step into action because that is the only way to reprogram reality. Doubt stays behind, the new self steps forward, and here is the final truth of this part. You do not need to eliminate self-doubt to change your life. You only need to stop believing that it can decide your future. When you move despite that voice begins to weaken. When you step forward despite fear, fear loses its strength. When you act despite insecurity, insecurity becomes fuel for growth. This is how self-doubt collapses, not through a grand victory, but through small yet certain steps, not through a magnificent promise, but through small decisions in the present, not by waiting for life to change, but by becoming the one who changes life. Once you see this truth, self-doubt is no longer the enemy. It is only an old echo in a chapter that has closed. You no longer ask whether you are enough. You ask who you are becoming. You no longer wait for confirmation. You confirm yourself. And when you do that, doubt collapses in silence. The law of inner authority is not built from the external world. It does not come from the recognition of others, not from success, not from reputation. Inner authority is born from one single source, your own permission. When you wait for the world to confirm that you are enough, you submit yourself to someone else's reality. But when you confirm yourself through your own identity and decisions, you step into a state that no one can control. Inner authority is not the same as confidence. Confidence is a feeling. Inner authority is a truth. A confident person can be shaken by failure, but a person with inner authority still stands firm even when everything collapses, because the essence of inner authority is not built on outcomes. It is built on the awareness that I am the source of everything I walk into. When you understand this, you no longer wait for opportunities to appear. You create opportunities. The world is very good at making you believe that power lies outside, in control, in money, in status, in the things people can see. That is why so many people chase power their whole lives and never feel like it belongs to them, because power from the outside is only an extension of the power within. When the inside is empty, the outside cannot fill it. When the inside is strong, the outside will adjust itself accordingly. The law of inner authority begins with a simple question. Who is steering your life? Not at the surface level, not at the level of tasks, but at the level of choices. Whom do you allow to define your value? What do you allow to determine your emotions? Which voice do you listen to when you stand before a choice? Inner authority does not require you to control the world. It requires you to control your response to the world. When you place power in someone else's hands, you must always live by their standards. When you place power in circumstances, you are always limited by conditions. But when you take power back inside, you are no longer limited by any external force. No circumstance can define you. No criticism can diminish you. No praise can make you lose yourself. Inner authority turns you into the source of every decision. Many people are trapped in the craving for validation. They want someone to look at them and say, "You are good enough. You are worthy. You should continue." But that validation is fragile. It depends on someone else's emotions, their thoughts, their acceptance, and anything that depends on others can be taken away. The law of inner authority frees you from that dependence. You do not need anyone to confirm you. You are the one who confirms. The most dangerous thing about living without inner authority is that you become easily pulled by the opinions of others. You easily lose direction, easily give up, easily step back, easily do what you do not want, all because you fear standing alone with your decision. But you must understand, standing alone is not a bad thing. It is the nature of inner authority. A person with inner authority does not need consensus. They only need clarity. The law of inner authority always begins with mastering the inner voice. Not the voice of fear, not the voice of doubt, but the voice of the true self. When you listen to it, you know what needs to be done, what aligns with your soul, what fits the path you choose. Anything that goes against that voice will make your life heavy, because you are living someone else's life, not your own. There is one thing you must see clearly. Inner authority is not about pretending to be strong, not about forcing yourself to overcome everything. Inner authority is the ability to stand in the middle of chaos and say, I remain on my axis. It is calm, it is awareness, it is self-mastery. It does not come from winning every external battle. It comes from not being defeated by the internal battles. When you have inner authority, you do not evaluate yourself by temporary results. You evaluate by whether you keep your word to yourself, whether you choose in alignment with your true self, whether you stay loyal to your truth. A person with inner authority does not need to prove. They only need to show up with clear presence. They do not argue, they do not persuade. They simply live according to what they know is true. The law of inner authority also teaches something important. No one can give you power. They can only activate it. Power must be unlocked from within you. It arises when you accept that this life is not something you ask permission for. This life is something you lead. You do not wait for someone's approval. You do not stay in the comfort zone just because someone says so. You walk according to your own calling. When you have inner authority, you no longer need to chase recognition. Inner power allows you to see your value without needing others to validate it. It helps you stand firm when the world shakes. It helps you maintain your vision when everything becomes blurry. It keeps you on your path when others quit. Inner authority creates a stability that the external world can never provide. Look at the people who have built their own reality. They do not wait for the world to open doors. They build doors. They do not wait for invitations. They walk in on their own. That inner authority is the sign of someone who does not allow anything outside to control their essence. They listen to the inner voice and act according to it. And this very thing forces the external world to adjust to them, not the other way around. The law of inner authority does not require you to always be strong. It requires you not to give the power to define your worth to anyone else. It requires you not to live in the image others want. It requires you to respect yourself enough to say, I will continue because this is the path I choose. Not because someone agrees or not because someone believes or not, but because you know your truth. Here is the final reality of this part. Inner authority is not something you search for. It is something you remember. It has always been there. It has only been covered by comparison, by fear of judgment, by the belief that you are not enough. When you remove those layers, you return to your true essence, an essence built on a value that cannot be taken away. When you live from that place, life is no longer something you must prove. It becomes something you create through your very presence. The law of inner authority is the foundation of every transformation. When you possess it, no world can stop you. No words can diminish you. No failure can end you. You become your own leader, and when you lead yourself, every door of life opens according to your steps. Persistence, as spiritual discipline, does not rise from motivation. It rises from conviction. It is not the energy that comes when everything feels exciting. It is the strength that remains when excitement is gone and only the truth is left. The world celebrates the man who begins with passion, but life rewards the man who continues when passion has faded. Persistence is not about trying harder. It is about refusing to abandon the path you chose. Every transformation in your life has a moment where everything in you wants to stop. The body is tired, the mind is restless, the emotion is unstable, the result is invisible. These moments are not signs of failure, they are the doorways of identity. The average man stops because he believes discomfort means he is going the wrong way. The awakened man knows discomfort means he is finally moving beyond the limits of his old self. Persistence is spiritual because it demands that you act from a deeper place than the circumstance of the moment. It demands that your decision does not depend on what you feel. It demands that your movement is guided by the identity you have chosen, not the identity that the world gave you, not the identity shaped by failure. the identity forged in silence and awareness. Life will test your persistence by withholding visible progress. The world wants to know if you are serious, if you are capable of holding your direction when nothing celebrates you, when you see no reward, when everyone else stops. Persistence is the evidence that you believe in a law greater than the moment, the law of inner becoming, the law that what you repeat, you become, the law that what you plant, you must harvest. Persistence is spiritual because it requires that you trust the invisible. You trust the unseen work. You trust the inner construction long before the world reflects it. There are people who only move when they see proof, but proof is only the echo of repeated action. If you wait for proof to move forward, you will be a prisoner of hesitation forever. Most people quit not because they lack talent or intelligence. They quit because they expect transformation to reward them immediately. They expect change to feel convenient. They expect the universe to show results before they have become the person worthy of those results. But the universe does not respond to the man who tests the path. It responds to the man who commits to it fully. There is a moment in every journey when you are faced with a silent choice: continue or collapse, continue or retreat, continue or return to the life you already know. The old life will always invite you back, because the old life requires nothing from you. It demands no expansion. It demands no courage. Persistence is the act of choosing the future over the familiar, again and again without negotiation. True persistence is not loud. It is not dramatic. It does not require the world to watch. It is quiet and consistent. It is the man who keeps going when no one knows his name, when no one applauds, when no one cares. Persistence is the silent devotion to your higher self. It is the discipline of honoring your vision even when nothing else honors you. There is a reason most men never change. They stop in the middle. They stop because fear whispers that the risk is too great. They stop because doubt convinces them that effort is wasted. They stop because they expect certainty before commitment. But commitment creates certainty. Persistence builds momentum. Momentum creates reality. And reality becomes the mirror of the man who refused to quit. Persistence is not about speed. It is about endurance. It is about showing up again. It is about speaking your truth again. It is about planting the seed again. It is about returning to your purpose again. The man who persists does not always move fast, but he always moves forward. That is the only direction that matters. The discipline of persistence is sacred because it shapes your character more than your result. It refines your patience. It strengthens your spirit. It builds your courage. It sharpens your clarity. It teaches you that you are stronger than the circumstances you face. It forces you to confront every limitation inside you and walk past it. Persistence is the bridge between who you are and who you are becoming. Without it, your vision remains a dream. Your identity remains a concept. Your desire remains a wish. But with persistence, everything shifts. You begin to see differently. You begin to act differently. You begin to speak differently. You become the man who continues, and that man is unstoppable. Think of every great builder, every leader, every creator. They were not defined by the moments they were praised. They were defined by the moments they refused to quit. They endured the waiting. They endured the doubt. They endured the silence. They endured the uncertainty, not because they were lucky, but because they held their identity above their emotion. Persistence is spiritual discipline because it is an act of faith, not faith in hope, faith in law, faith in repetition, faith in your subconscious mind. When you persist, you are sending the strongest command possible. I believe in the path I walk. I believe in the man I am becoming. I believe in the vision I hold, and the world must eventually rearrange itself to match that belief. The world does not need more men who start strong. It needs men who finish what they begin. The world does not need more men who wait for permission. It needs men who continue regardless of permission. The world does not need more men who crumble under pressure. It needs men who stand when everything around them is shaking. Persistence is not a moment of motivation. It is a lifelong posture. It is the way you show up to every challenge. It is the way you face every setback. It is the way you walk through every storm. Persistence is the declaration that you cannot be broken, that you cannot be delayed, that you cannot be stopped. There will be days when your progress is invisible, days when your faith is tested, days when you want to stop. But these are the moments that define you. These are the moments where the weak fall. These are the moments where the persistent rise. The question is never, can you succeed? The question is, will you continue when it is difficult? Will you continue when it is quiet? Will you continue when the results are not visible? If the answer is yes, then you have already won. Persistence as spiritual discipline is the highest expression of your identity. It is the act of becoming the man who finishes his story. And when you finish, you will look back and understand a single truth. The transformation did not happen when you started. It happened every time you refused to stop. Fear does not disappear because you avoid it. Fear disappears when something inside you becomes larger than the fear itself. The flame that outlives fear is not born from comfort or safety. It is forged in the moments when your spirit stands at the edge of uncertainty and chooses to move forward anyway. Fear is not your enemy. Fear is the signal that you are touching the threshold of your next evolution. Every man who has ever risen to power has walked through fear. Not around it, not away from it, through it. Because fear is not a dead end, it is a doorway. It only feels like resistance when you still believe in the small version of yourself. Fear speaks the language of limitation. It whispers the memories of your old identity. It reminds you of every moment you hesitated, every time you were wounded, every time you doubted yourself. But fear can only speak to the man you used to be, not the one you are becoming. The flame that outlives fear is not a burst of motivation. It is the inner certainty that you do not collapse even when fear rises. It is the conviction that your spirit is stronger than your emotion. It is the knowing that the future you desire demands courage, and courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the dominance of truth over fear. Understand this deeply. Fear is always loudest when you are closest to transformation. The subconscious reacts to change by protecting what is familiar. It does not understand growth. It only understands patterns. And when you attempt to step beyond the pattern, fear is activated, not to destroy you, but to test you, to measure your conviction, to ask you the only question that matters. Are you the man who continues or the man who retreats? Most people misunderstand fear. They think fear is a warning to stop, but fear is a sign that a new identity is trying to emerge. Fear is the friction between who you were and who you are becoming. The average man listens to fear and retreats into safety. He convinces himself that caution is wisdom, that hesitation is intelligence, that waiting is maturity. But the truth is simpler. Fear is not a reason to stop. It is a reason to rise. The flame that outlives fear is lit by a single decision. I move anyway. I speak anyway. I step forward anyway. Every time you choose movement over hesitation, the flame grows brighter. The fire becomes stronger. The voice of fear grows weaker. You begin to realize that fear cannot stop you unless you obey it. It has no power unless you submit. There are moments when fear will appear as logic, when it will disguise itself as reason, when it will pretend to be caution. But look closely. Behind the mask is always the same message. Stay small. Stay silent. Stay the same. The flame that outlives fear is the awareness that your soul did not come here to stay small. Your life is not meant to be a reflection of hesitation. You were not born to be led by anxiety. Fear has one goal: to keep you in the past, to trap you in old patterns, to keep you attached to the identity that no longer serves you. But the flame that outlives fear is the part of you that remembers your true potential. It whispers a different message. Move, speak, act, live. Fear says, what if I fail? The flame answers, what if I rise? Fear says, what if I am not enough? The flame responds, I am already greater than the moment I am facing. Fear asks, what if I lose? And the flame answers, what if this loss is the beginning of my breakthrough? Fear wants you to wait for certainty. But certainty is not the cause of action. It is the result of action. You do not wait to feel confident. You act until confidence becomes natural. You do not wait for the fear to fade. You walk until fear has no place left to speak. Every step forward weakens the voice of doubt. Every action becomes proof. Every proof becomes identity. The flame that outlives fear is not a gift, it is a practice. You choose it every day, in every decision, in every thought. It is the habit of believing in yourself when no one else believes. It is the discipline of speaking truth when the world speaks doubt. It is the commitment to stand tall when your old identity wants you to fall back. Fear is not a force of destruction. It is a force of transformation. It shows you exactly where you must go next. It reveals the boundaries of your current self. It exposes the walls you built. It brings the shadows to the surface, not to frighten you, but to free you. The flame does not grow by eliminating fear. It grows by burning through it. Every time you move through fear, you reclaim a piece of your power. You recover the parts of you that were given away to doubt. You gather the strength that was lost to hesitation. You become more whole. You become more certain. You become more you. Fear has no real substance. It is made of memory, imagination, and old pain. But memory does not define you. Imagination does not control you. And old pain cannot stop you unless you allow it. The flame that outlives fear is the decision to no longer let your past speak for your future. Most men let fear choose their direction. The man who awakens chooses his own. Most men allow fear to write their story. The man who rises writes his story with fire. Most men listen to the warnings of the world. The man of destiny listens to the voice within. Fear will always appear as long as you are expanding, and expansion is the purpose of your life. So fear is not a sign to retreat. It is a sign you are walking the right path. Let the flame be your reminder. You are greater than the feeling. You are greater than the doubt. You are greater than the fear. Say to yourself with calm power, I am the type of person who moves despite fear. I am the type of person who acts with courage. I am the type of person who does not shrink from the unknown. I am the type of person who walks into the future with certainty. The flame that outlives fear is not outside you. It is not created by circumstances. It is not given by others. It is the fire already burning in your spirit. It is the inner command that no fear can silence. Feed it with movement. Strengthen it with belief. Guard it with persistence, and you will realize a truth that will change your life forever. Fear is temporary. The flame is eternal. You do not rise because you never fall. You rise because you know how to return. The discipline of returning is the single skill that separates the awakened from the drifting. Not perfection, not motivation, not inspiration. The return. The quiet decision to come back to your path again and again, even after distraction, delay, fear, or doubt has pulled you away. Most people think success is the absence of setbacks. That discipline means you always feel strong. That growth is a straight line. But every real transformation is built on cycles. You advance, you slip, you forget, you lose momentum, you fall back into old patterns. And then comes the moment that defines everything. Do you collapse or do you return? The discipline of returning is not emotional. It is identity. It is the declaration that no matter what has happened in the past hours or days or years, you are coming back to your purpose. You are choosing your path again. You are rebuilding your direction again. You are reclaiming your power again. It does not matter how many times you have slipped. What matters is that every slip becomes fuel. Every distraction becomes a reminder. Every setback becomes a signal. Return, come back, continue. Understand this. The mind will always try to drag you into the old, because the old is familiar, the old is predictable, the old requires no effort. But the discipline of returning is the refusal to let the past speak for you. It is the decision to answer with a different voice. A voice that says, I am not the man I was yesterday. I am the man who continues today. Returning is the reset of identity. It is the declaration, I am still in the game. I am still building. I am still growing. And the reason this discipline is rare is because it requires humility. It requires honesty. It requires the courage to admit that you stepped off the path and the strength to step back on it without shame. Most men break the moment they slip. They wait for perfect conditions. They wait for the feeling to return. They wait for alignment. They tell themselves they will restart tomorrow. They negotiate with distraction. But tomorrow is the lie of the drifting man. Tomorrow is how the weak delay their destiny. The man who returns does not wait. He does not negotiate. He does not ask for a second chance. He creates it. Returning is a command, not a request, not a wish, not a hope. It is the decision you make regardless of your mood, regardless of your circumstances, regardless of your current results. The discipline of returning says, I choose my path again even if I stepped off it a moment ago. There is a secret in this. The more you return, the less you drift. The act of returning becomes a muscle. At first you fall far before you correct. You lose days or weeks before you snap back. But over time the distance shrinks. You catch yourself sooner. The return becomes faster. The course becomes straighter. And one day you discover that return has become identity. This is who you are now, the man who comes back. Returning is not only about action, it is about belief. It is the refusal to declare defeat. It is the internal posture that says, even when I stumble, I am still aligned with my destiny. The world cannot stop the man who returns. Failure cannot stop him. Fear cannot stop him. Delay cannot break him, because every moment that tries to pull him away becomes another moment where he chooses to come back. This is how momentum is rebuilt. Not through motivation, but through micro decisions. Small returns, repeated often. You break the chain of hesitation by acting before the mind can interfere. You move because movement is identity. You return because returning is power. Many men misunderstand discipline. They think discipline is perfection. They think discipline is doing everything right. But real discipline is adaptability. It is the capacity to recover quickly, to regain position, to re-enter the fight. The discipline of returning is the core of every ritual of success, because your subconscious listens to repeated choice. It watches what you do after you fall, not what you do when everything is easy. When you return, you are telling the subconscious, this is not a phase. This is who I am. This is my system. This is my path. Every return is proof, and proof is how identity becomes unbreakable. Every time you return, it becomes easier to return again. Every return builds confidence. Every return strengthens belief. Every return rewires your instinct. And the man who knows how to return will always outlast the man who waits to be perfect. So let your return be simple. Let it be immediate. Let it be calm. You do not need to declare anything to the world. You do not need to apologize for stepping off the path. You only need to step back onto it and keep moving forward. Action is the loudest statement you can make. Say this in your own soul. I return. I return regardless of how many times I fell. I return regardless of what the world says. I return regardless of how the past looks, because returning is my identity. The moment you return, you break the power of regret. You end the story of hesitation. You dissolve the weight of failure. The return resets everything. The return is the bridge between who you were and who you are becoming. Listen carefully. The man who succeeds is not the man who never fell. The man who succeeds is the man who always came back, again and again and again. No matter how far he drifted, no matter how loud the fear, no matter how heavy the past, he returned. So you must train this skill, not once, not when it is convenient. Every time life tests you, every time doubt rises, every time failure whispers, return, because returning is the most powerful form of persistence. It is persistence purified. It is persistence without drama. It is persistence stripped to its essence. You do not quit because you fell. You return because you know where you are going. You know what you want. You know who you are. And nothing can stop the man who keeps coming back to his purpose. Say this with calm confidence. I return. I continue. I persist. I always come back. My identity is stronger than my hesitation. My path is stronger than my fear. My purpose is stronger than any setback. This is discipline. This is identity. This is the power of the man who returns. Progress does not begin when the world sees it. Progress begins in silence. The most powerful changes in your life are not built in the moments where others applaud. They are built in the moments where no one is watching. Silent construction is the foundation of every transformation you admire. It is the work done in private. It is the work done without reward. It is the discipline of building the future when no one knows what you are building. Most people misunderstand growth. They think it begins with celebration. They think it begins with visible results. They think it begins when life acknowledges their effort. But the truth is different. Growth begins in the interior world. It begins in your mind. It begins when you rewrite your beliefs. It begins when you quietly restructure your identity. Before the changes become external, they must first become internal. Silent construction is the refusal to wait for applause. It is the decision to move before approval. It is the commitment to pursue your vision without validation. The loudest victories always come from the quietest preparation. Your best work is done in stillness, not in noise, not in distraction, not in conversation, in silence. Silence is the atmosphere where the subconscious listens. It is the environment where clarity is sharpened. When you enter silence, you begin to hear instructions from within. Ideas rise, identity shapes, focus intensifies, and in that quiet space, you design the man you are becoming. No one sees the hours you spend thinking. No one sees the battles you win mentally. No one sees the habits you build. But those unseen victories are the ones that decide your destiny. The world teaches you to chase recognition. Silent construction teaches you to chase alignment. The world wants you to announce every plan. Silent construction wants you to embody the plan until it becomes undeniable. When you move in silence, your intention becomes clean. Your energy becomes strong. Your faith becomes unbreakable. There are two types of builders. The first seeks attention. He tells everyone what he will do. He broadcasts his dreams. He waits for approval before he begins. His commitment depends on applause. His motivation depends on external feedback. And the moment he does not receive praise, he collapses because he was not building from conviction. He was building from insecurity. The second builder moves differently. He does not announce. He does not ask for permission. He does not seek validation. He works in silence. He takes steps quietly. He improves quietly. He grows quietly. And when the time comes, he arrives with strength. The world sees only the result. They call it sudden. They call it lucky. They do not understand that the foundation was laid in silence. Silent construction is not passive. It is powerful. It is not hiding. It is strategic. It is not waiting. It is building without distraction. When you commit to silent construction, you remove the noise of other people's opinions. You stop asking for feedback from those who have never walked your path. You stop explaining yourself to those who cannot understand your vision. You begin to operate from inner authority. Every goal has two phases, the quiet phase and the visible phase. The quiet phase is where the identity is built. The visible phase is where the world sees the outcome. Most people start in the second phase. They skip the first. They try to show results before they have developed the identity, and so they crumble. The foundation is weak. The inner structure is unstable. Silence strengthens the structure. There is a reason why rituals are done in private. There is a reason why the greatest thinkers withdrew into solitude. There is a reason why your most important decisions come in quiet moments. The subconscious does not respond to noise. It responds to clarity. It responds to environment. And silence is the environment where clarity is born. The man who practices silent construction has an advantage. His confidence does not come from approval. It comes from evidence. He does not need encouragement. He does not need permission. His confidence is built from the proof of his own consistency. Every night he returns. Every night he commits. Every night he builds. And no one knows, but he knows. Silent construction teaches you to focus on the work, not the reward. It eliminates desperation. It removes impatience. It aligns you with the process. And when you are aligned with the process, results become inevitable. You do not force growth. You construct it. You do not demand outcomes. You build the conditions for outcomes to appear. When the world is loud, you must become quiet. When distractions rise, you must retreat into focus. When fear speaks, you must anchor yourself in silence, because silence does not weaken you. Silence strengthens you. It is the space where you confront yourself, where you refine your thoughts, where you decide who you are going to be. Silent construction is not about isolation from life. It is about separation from noise. It is the discipline of entering your inner chamber and building the future in thought before you build it in action. Every great achievement was first a silent decision. A decision no one saw. A decision no one believed. A decision that lived only in the heart of one person, until it became a structure the world could not ignore. Listen to the truth. Your transformation does not need an audience. It needs repetition. It needs conviction. It needs patience. The world does not need to understand your process. It needs to witness your results. And those results will come if you are willing to do the invisible work. So silence becomes your strategy, not because you are hiding, but because you are constructing, not because you fear judgment, but because you honor the importance of focus, not because you want to escape the world, but because you are building something the world has never seen. This is how the subconscious is trained. This is how identity is rewritten. This is how greatness is built, not with noise, not with show, but with silent construction. You do not need to announce anything. You do not need to inform anyone. Let the work speak for you. Say this now with authority. I build in silence. I construct my future quietly. I do not need to be seen to be rising. My growth is happening beneath the surface. My success is taking form in silence. Your evolution is underway. The structures are forming. The foundation is strengthening. And soon the world will witness what you have built in secret. The man who builds in silence does not rise by chance. He rises by design. And that is the power of silent construction. The men who build their lives with intention do not rely on chance. They do not depend on inspiration. They do not wake up and hope the day will unfold in their favor. They design it. They shape it. They construct it with precision. The system of the architect is the system of a man who refuses to let his future be a product of accident. It is the system of deliberate creation. The architect does not start with emotion. He starts with structure. He begins with a blueprint. He understands that desire alone is not enough to build anything lasting. Emotion is the spark, but a system is the machinery. A man without a system will always return to chaos. He may have talent, he may have potential, but without structure, those gifts collapse under inconsistency. The system of the architect begins in the mind. Before he takes a step in the world, he builds his direction internally. He decides who he is. He decides what he is building. And then he creates the process that will make it inevitable. Most men try to skip this step. They want action without architecture. They want results without plan. But action without design leads only to exhaustion. The architect does not waste movement. Every step has purpose. The subconscious mind thrives on instruction. It does not follow wishful thinking. It does not respond to vague intention. It responds to clarity and repetition. And this is why the architect builds systems. Systems feed the subconscious with direction. They remove confusion. They eliminate hesitation. They create momentum that does not depend on mood. A man who has a system does not ask, "What should I do today?" His system answers for him. His habits answer for him. His identity answers for him. There is no negotiation. There is no emotional debate, because the system was built before the moment arrived. Understand this. A dream becomes powerful only when it is translated into a process. A plan is not a wish. A plan is the map that transforms potential into reality. The architect knows this. He does not approach his life as a series of random events. He approaches it as a structure. He is designing piece by piece. Look at the builders of industry. Look at the pioneers of ideas. Look at the men who reshaped the world. They did not trust their fate to chance. They built systems around their vision. Ford did not build automobiles by hope. Carnegie did not build steel through inspiration alone. Edison did not create breakthroughs by accident. They designed systems that turned their vision into a repeatable process. The system of the architect begins with simplicity, not complexity. Most men fail because they want to build too much, too fast. They drown themselves in details. They drown themselves in overwhelming plans. The architect builds from the essential. He removes the unnecessary. He focuses on the few actions that generate the greatest momentum. Then he repeats them again and again. Simplicity is not weakness. Simplicity is clarity. Simplicity is power. The subconscious thrives on simple instruction. Do this, repeat this, execute this. Complexity creates hesitation. Simplicity creates movement. The system of the architect has 3 pillars: design, decision, discipline. Design is the blueprint. It is the vision translated into instruction. It is the inner architecture that gives direction to your identity. Decision is the moment the plan becomes real. Not thought, not dream, not hope. Decision is the commitment that cuts away every other option. The architect does not say, someday. He says, now. He does not wait for clarity. He creates clarity. Discipline is the execution. It is the refusal to break the system. It is the daily return to the structure. Discipline is not punishment. Discipline is alignment. It is the ability to act even when emotion disagrees. The system of the architect is built in silence, protected by clarity, and strengthened by repetition. And repetition is the engine of transformation. Everything you repeat becomes identity. Everything you repeat becomes instinct. Everything you repeat becomes inevitable. Most men fail not because they lack ideas, but because they lack systems. They collapse under inconsistency. They allow their days to be ruled by randomness. They live reactively instead of architecturally. The world shapes them instead of them shaping the world. But the man who builds systems takes control of his life at its source. He reduces the role of chance. He reduces the influence of fear. He removes the need for motivation. His direction is written into his structure. Success becomes mechanical. There is a moment every evening when the architect returns to the blueprint. He asks himself the questions that keep the system alive. What is the next step? What must be done tomorrow? What habits must be strengthened? What distractions must be removed? He enters sleep with instruction. The subconscious receives the command, and the work continues even while he rests. This is the hidden advantage of the architect. He does not need the world to support him. He does not need approval. He does not need circumstances to align. His system makes progress inevitable. His structure makes success a process instead of a wish. A man with a system does not drift. He builds. He does not react. He creates. He does not wait. He moves. His life is not a random sequence. It is a designed result. And that design begins with the decision to stop living like the average man. The average man is ruled by emotion. The architect is ruled by instruction. Repeat this truth. I do not hope for structure. I build it. I do not wait for direction. I design it. I do not leave my future to chance. I architect it. Your life is the structure you build daily. Your habits are the tools. Your desire is the fuel. And your system is the blueprint. When these 3 elements work together, no obstacle can stop you. No fear can slow you. No setback can break you, because your success is no longer dependent on effort alone. It is powered by architecture. This is the system of the architect. The system of a man who takes ownership of his fate. The system of a man who understands that greatness is not accidental. It is constructed, brick by brick, habit by habit, Day by day, build your life like an architect, with clarity, with purpose, with discipline, and you will not rise by luck. You will rise by design. Midnight is not just an hour. Midnight is a threshold. It is the moment when the noise of the world falls away and the truth of your inner world rises to the surface. The day belongs to distraction. The night belongs to decision. Midnight alignment is when the subconscious is most open, most impressionable, most ready to receive instructions that will shape your next reality. Most men end the day unconsciously. They collapse into sleep carrying the weight of their failures, their fears, their frustrations. They enter the night with scattered thoughts. They fall asleep reacting instead of commanding. And they wake up in the same cycle of drift. But a man who understands the power of midnight does not fall asleep by accident. He ends the day by design. Midnight alignment is the ritual of identity. It is the moment you return to yourself and give direction to the mind that will work while you rest. The subconscious does not sleep. It processes your instruction. It listens to your final thought. It builds from your final emotion. It obeys your final decision. Midnight alignment is how you speak to that invisible engine of creation. During the day, the conscious mind is guarded. It is defensive. It is busy with decisions and distractions. But at night, the guard goes down. The resistance fades. The subconscious becomes open. And in that window, you have a chance to plant seeds that will grow into identity. This is why midnight matters. This is why your final hour must be sacred. You must understand this. Your mind is always aligning with something. If you do not choose what it aligns with fear. If you do not choose the direction, it defaults to old patterns. The average man enters sleep carrying what he did not resolve. Midnight alignment is the decision to resolve. It is the reclaiming of authority over the last thoughts of your day. The world tries to convince you that morning is where power begins. But the morning is the consequence. The real work happens at night. The night is the beginning of tomorrow. The night is where the next version of you is constructed. You do not wait until morning to choose who you are. You choose before sleep. You choose in silence. You choose in darkness. Midnight alignment begins with the simplest question. Who am I becoming? Not who was I today? Not what went wrong? Not what I fear? Midnight alignment ends the day by returning to your identity. It is the refusal to let the world define your direction. It is the reset that brings every part of you into unity again. When midnight comes, you turn inward. You remove the noise. You remove the opinions of others. You remove the debris of the day. You return to the core. You speak to yourself with clarity. I am the type of person who acts with purpose. I am the type of person who finishes what I start. I am the type of person who does not drift. These words are not affirmations. They are commands. They are instructions whispered to the deepest part of your being. And the subconscious listens. It always listens. It obeys the tone of your identity, not the volume of your fear. The night is not passive. It is intelligent. It is organized. It is the hidden architect of your next reality. Midnight alignment is how you shape that intelligence. It is how you give it a blueprint. It is how you direct it toward a future that has not yet been seen but is already being formed. There is a shift that happens when the rest of the world sleeps, when others turn off their mind, when others surrender to distraction. A man who knows the law of midnight alignment does the opposite. He becomes awake in his purpose. He becomes intentional with his final thoughts. He becomes powerful in his silence. This is not about staying up late. This is not about losing sleep. This is about ending the day with alignment. The ritual is simple. Turn off the noise. Sit with yourself. Review the day, not with judgment, but with awareness. What did I build? What did I allow? What must I release? And then return. Return to your identity. Return to your aim. Return to your direction. Midnight alignment is not dramatic. It is precise. It is quiet. It is disciplined. You speak your aim. You visualize the man you are becoming. You command the subconscious, and then you rest, not hoping, not doubting, staying aligned. Listen to this truth. Midnight is when the world sleeps, but destiny stays awake. Midnight is when the ego quiets and the soul speaks. Midnight is when identity can be rewritten. This is why great men cherish the night. They do not fear silence. They enter it. They do not avoid stillness. They welcome it. They do not waste the final hour. They invest it. The night is where perseverance is forged. The night is where faith is proven. The night is where the decision is sealed. Because midnight alignment is not a ritual for the weak. It is the ritual of those who build the invisible before it becomes visible. It is the ritual of those who know the world will not understand their process until the results appear. Midnight alignment trains you to detach from the chaos of the day. It trains you to release the weight of failure. It trains you to face the next sunrise with clarity. You do not fall asleep as the man you used to be. You fall asleep as the man you have decided to become. Say this with calm conviction. My night is my temple. My thoughts are my instructions. My identity is being constructed in silence. I command my future before sleep. Midnight alignment is the moment where fate bends. It is the hour where you choose the next version of yourself. And when you practice this ritual consistently, the external world begins to change. Not because you forced it, but because you aligned with the version of you that already existed in potential. Midnight alignment is how the architect ends his day. Midnight alignment is how the persistent man protects his vision. Midnight alignment is how you prepare your subconscious to work in your favor. The day will always begin in the morning, but your destiny begins at midnight. Stand at the threshold of the night with authority. Speak to your future. Command your identity. Align your spirit, and let the world sleep while you rise. Reality does not begin in the physical world. It begins in the mind. Before anything becomes visible, it exists as an image, a thought, a scene rehearsed internally. Visualization is not imagination. Visualization is rehearsal. It is the act of preparing your subconscious to accept a future before the world delivers it. And when the subconscious accepts something as truth, the body follows, the decisions follow, the actions follow, and eventually the world must follow. The average man uses his mind to replay the past. He revisits failure. He replays fear. He visualizes everything that can go wrong. He goes to sleep rehearsing disaster. He wakes up rehearsing limitation. And then he wonders why the same patterns repeat. His visualization is working against him because he has not learned how to direct it. A man of intention uses visualization differently. He uses it as a weapon. He uses it as a tool of identity. He uses it to project himself into the life he is constructing. He enters the image of his future as if it already belongs to him. He does not hope. He rehearses. Visualization is not fantasy. Fantasy is passive. Fantasy is escape. Visualization is active creation. It is rehearsal. It is preparation. It is the internal practice of embodying a result before the world responds. Every athlete rehearses before performance. Every commander rehearses before battle. Every architect rehearses before building. And the mind is the highest stage for rehearsal. When you visualize, you are not simply imagining a life. You are preparing your nervous system to move like the man you intend to be. You are building confidence ahead of the outcome. You are creating familiar territory in the future so that when you enter that future, your mind recognizes it. Visualization reduces resistance. It eliminates fear. It installs belief. The subconscious does not understand what is real and what is rehearsal. It does not need proof. It needs clarity. It needs repetition. When you visualize consistently, your subconscious begins to treat that image as instruction. It looks for pathways to make that image reality. It influences your decisions. It strengthens your identity. It changes your energy. This is why visualization is so powerful. The world may not believe your vision yet, but if your subconscious accepts it, then your life begins to move toward it. Every great change in history started with a man who held a vision others could not see. He saw it before he touched it. He built it internally before he built it externally. Visualization is not about watching yourself succeed. It is about becoming the person who succeeds. It is not about picturing a result. It is about stepping into the identity of the one who produced that result. That is the difference between daydreamers and builders. Daydreamers watch, builders embody. To visualize with power, you must remove three things: doubt, speed, and distance. Doubt weakens the image. It makes the vision unstable. Remove it by stepping into certainty. This is who I am becoming. Speed ruins the depth. Visualization is not about rushing. It is about immersion. Slow the image down. Let it breathe. Distance keeps your future far away. Bring the image close. Live inside it. Feel it. Own it. When you visualize, see yourself moving in the world that belongs to you. See your posture. See your expression. Hear your voice. Feel the energy of confidence. Imagine decisions flowing easily. Imagine opportunities responding to you. Experience the moment before it becomes real. Visualization has two layers: the image and the identity. The image is the external picture of the future. The identity is the internal shift that makes it possible. You must visualize both, not just where you are going, but who you are there. Not just the outcome, but the man who generated it. Most people visualize the result and ignore the identity. They imagine wealth, but keep the mentality of scarcity. They imagine strength, but keep the identity of weakness. They imagine success, but keep the patterns of failure. And so their vision never becomes reality, because visualization without identity is just fantasy. The man who masters visualization understands that the subconscious does not follow what you want. It follows who you believe you are. Visualization is how you change that belief. It is how you rehearse the new identity so consistently that the old identity begins to collapse. When you do this every night before sleep, your subconscious receives those images as instruction. It studies them, it repeats them, it engraves them. It begins to bring your external world into alignment with your internal world. Listen carefully. Your mind is the most powerful environment you will ever step into, and visualization is how you design that environment. It is how you bring the future into the present. It is how you pull destiny into now. This is your ritual. Close your eyes in silence. Breathe deeply. See one moment in your future. Not a fantasy, but the version that is already unfolding. Stand inside that scene. Look at your life through the eyes of the man you are becoming. Let your mind accept that future as familiar. Let your subconscious receive the blueprint. Visualization is not a request. It is command. It is alignment. It is identity rehearsal. You do not picture to escape. You picture to become. You do not watch from the outside. You step into the image. You do not hope for change. You embody change. Say this with control. I see my future before it arrives. I rehearse my destiny before the world agrees. I visualize as the man who already is. Your mind is not a mirror. It is the architect. And visualization is the rehearsal of reality. Logic does not shape your destiny. Logic only explains the world you already know. The subconscious is not moved by logic. It is moved by frequency. The subconscious does not respond to arguments, evidence, or analysis. It responds to tone, belief, repetition, and emotion. The subconscious listens to the language beneath the words. It hears the signal behind the voice. It obeys the dominant vibration, not the strongest reasoning. This is why a man can know what he should do and still not do it. This is why a man can understand success and never touch it. Logic gives information. Frequency gives instruction. Logic tells the mind what is possible. Frequency tells the subconscious what is real. When you speak to the subconscious, you must stop using the vocabulary of doubt. You must speak with the vocabulary of belief. The subconscious hears certainty. It hears conviction. It hears identity. When your tone carries hesitation, the subconscious rejects your command. When your tone carries authority, the subconscious obeys. The subconscious does not care about the past. It does not negotiate with excuses. It does not measure probability. It simply responds to the most consistent emotional signal in your life. And that signal becomes the blueprint of your identity. You do not become confident by learning confidence. You become confident by vibrating confidence. You do not become disciplined by thinking about discipline. You become disciplined by embodying the frequency of a man who follows through The subconscious listens to who you are, not what you know. Many men misunderstand power. They try to convince themselves with logic. They try to push themselves with force. They try to think their way into change. But thought without frequency is weak. Words without emotion are empty. The subconscious cannot be persuaded by intellect. It is persuaded by resonance. Look at your life. Look at your past decisions. Look at the moments you rose and the moments you collapsed. You did not move because of logic. You moved because of emotion. You moved because something inside you aligned with a signal. That signal was your subconscious speaking. And whether you listened or ignored it, your life followed that frequency. When you speak to the subconscious, you must speak in its language. The language of atmosphere, the language of identity, the language of vibration. You must speak from the place inside you that already knows who you are becoming. You must speak from a deeper certainty than the world can touch. This is why repetition matters. Repetition is not about memorizing words. Repetition is how you create frequency. When you repeat a belief with emotion, you are tuning your subconscious to that belief. You are shifting its frequency away from fear and toward certainty. The subconscious does not understand volume. It understands consistency. Most men speak to themselves with doubt. They rehearse failure. They repeat fear. They repeat limitation. And their subconscious accepts those vibrations as command. The subconscious never judges. It never argues. It never questions your authority. It simply obeys the strongest frequency you hold. If you want to change your life, you must change the signal you send. Not just once, not just when you are motivated. Every day, every night, in silence, in thought, in the internal voice that no one hears but you. You must broadcast the identity you choose. Frequency is the emotional atmosphere that surrounds your thoughts. It is the tone behind your decisions. It is the posture of your spirit. The subconscious is always measuring that posture, and it responds to what you truly believe, not what you say you want. There is a moment every night when the day releases its grip and the subconscious prepares to work. In that moment, you must choose your frequency. What will you carry into sleep? What will you impress onto the mind that builds your future while you rest? Fear or certainty? Scarcity or vision? Drift or decision? The subconscious is most open when the world is quiet. The subconscious listens when the ego sleeps. This is why silence is powerful. Silence removes distraction. Silence reveals identity. Silence strengthens the inner signal. The subconscious hears self-control as authority. Listen to this truth. The subconscious does not interpret logic. It interprets frequency. It does not analyze words. It analyzes the emotional signature beneath them. A single sentence spoken with belief is more powerful than 1,000 thoughts spoken with fear. Great men understand this. They do not speak to themselves as beggars. They speak as builders. They do not question their commands. They declare them. They do not pray from lack. They affirm from certainty. They do not ask, what if? They say, this is. Every transformation begins with frequency. Identity is frequency. Belief is frequency. Discipline is frequency. The future you want responds to a specific signal. And when your inner world matches that signal, the external world begins to reflect it. Change the frequency and the reality changes. Change the tone and the outcome shifts. Change the emotional atmosphere and the subconscious begins to obey a new direction. Say this with clarity. My subconscious responds to my frequency, not my fear. My identity speaks louder than my doubt. My tone commands my future. When you understand that the subconscious speaks frequency, you stop reasoning with your limitations. You stop negotiating with anxiety. You stop explaining your past. You step into identity. You speak with command. You broadcast who you are becoming. And the subconscious listens. It always listens. It obeys the signal you choose. Identity is not discovered. Identity is programmed. Every habit you repeat, every belief you reinforce, every thought you rehearse is a suggestion you are feeding to your subconscious. And the subconscious accepts suggestion as truth. Autosuggestion is not a trick of the mind. It is the operating system of human transformation. It is the method by which you rewrite the deepest layers of who you are. The mind does not change by accident. Identity does not shift by chance. You do not wake up one day disciplined and aligned. You become disciplined because you repeat the identity of a disciplined man until it becomes natural. You become confident because you rehearse confidence until your mind cannot remember a version of you that was insecure. Autosuggestion is identity programming. The average man speaks to himself from his past. He repeats stories that weaken him. He reinforces fear. He says, I am not ready. I am not enough. I am not capable. And the subconscious obeys. It takes those words as instructions. It turns those statements into identity. The man becomes a reflection of the suggestions he repeats. The man of intention speaks differently. He does not wait for his identity to feel real. He speaks it into existence. He does not ask for evidence. He creates it. He understands this truth. You do not speak based on who you were. You speak based on who you have decided to become. Autosuggestion is not lying to yourself. Autosuggestion is leading yourself. The subconscious does not argue. It does not resist suggestion that is repeated with emotion. It accepts and obeys. And this is why the first law of autosuggestion is consistency, not force, not volume. Consistency. You do not need 1,000 statements. You need a few commands spoken with absolute conviction. Autosuggestion is not about saying what you hope will happen. It is about declaring what is already true in the identity you are stepping into. When you say, I am disciplined, you are not describing your past. You are giving instruction to your future. You are carving that identity deeper into your subconscious. The subconscious cannot reject a suggestion backed by belief. It cannot resist a statement backed by emotion. Emotion is the energy that drives the suggestion into the deepest layers of your mind. Repetition is the tool that makes it permanent. This is why autosuggestion is done daily. Not when you feel good, not when life is easy. Every night, every morning, with purpose. Identity is not formed in public. Identity is formed in silence. Identity is formed when you speak the same command again and again until the mind accepts it as familiar, until the words no longer feel like a stretch but like truth. You must speak your identity until it feels normal. That is when the old self begins to fracture. Autosuggestion is not a chant. It is not empty affirmation. It is the deliberate installation of identity. It is the process of choosing your character instead of inheriting it. Every time you say, I am the type of person who follows through, you are replacing the old identity. You are dismantling hesitation. You are constructing certainty. Most men try to improve their behavior without improving their identity. They try to do new things while maintaining old beliefs. That is why they fail. Behavior is always a reflection of identity. You do not change action by willpower. You change action by programming a new identity that naturally chooses different behavior. Autosuggestion is the mechanism of that change. It is the tool used by every great builder of success. Look at the men who shaped the world. They had a clear identity before the world recognized it. They spoke to themselves as the men they intended to be. They did not wait for circumstances to approve their future. They programmed it. There is a moment when autosuggestion shifts from effort to embodiment. At first, the words feel foreign. You speak them because you must. Then they begin to feel familiar. You speak them because they resonate. And then they become truth. You speak them because they describe you. Autosuggestion has rules. Speak in the present. Speak with simplicity. Speak with emotion. Speak from identity. The subconscious responds to direct instruction. It does not respond to doubt. It does not respond to complicated phrasing. It must be clear. I am, I do, I become. You are not negotiating with your mind. You are commanding it. You are not trying to convince yourself of possibility. You are installing identity. Autosuggestion is how you communicate with your subconscious. It is how you lead yourself into new behavior. It is how you make transformation inevitable. The most powerful suggestions are the ones tied to character, not goals, not outcomes. Identity. I am disciplined. I am decisive. I am confident. I am the type of person who does not quit. This identity becomes the filter that makes every decision simple. When the identity is programmed, the action becomes automatic. You are not building a new life. You are building the person who generates that life. And when the identity changes, the life must change. It cannot stay the same. The subconscious will not allow it. The world will begin to reflect the identity you have programmed. Autosuggestion is the daily practice of becoming. It is the structured repetition of who you intend to be. It is the silent rewriting of belief. Speak the identity, repeat the identity, embody the identity. Do it with conviction, do it with emotion. Do it until the old version of you becomes unrecognizable. Say this with firmness. I am programming my identity. I speak my future into the subconscious. I build who I am through repetition. Autosuggestion is the foundation of every transformation. It is the language of the subconscious. And when you master that language, you no longer hope for change. You create it. The field does not answer confusion. The field does not respond to vague hope, scattered intention, or mixed signals. The field responds to clarity. It responds to a mind that knows what it wants, a voice that speaks with authority, and a soul that is already committed. Reality is not shaped by chance, it is shaped by precision. Clarity is power because clarity is direction. When you are unclear, the field mirrors uncertainty. When you hesitate, the field returns hesitation. When you doubt, the field gives you more reasons to doubt. That is why most men never move into the life they want. They send a weak signal into the field. They change their plan every week. They speak with one tone and live with another. The field does not know who to obey because the man does not know who he is. The field has one law. It aligns with the identity you embody, not the identity you talk about, not the identity you hope for, the identity you consistently express. Identity is clarity. When your inner world becomes clear, your outer world begins to reflect that clarity. The field shifts when you shift. Clarity demands that you choose. It demands that you decide. It demands that you stop living between two worlds. You cannot become the man you are destined to be while holding on to the identity you are trying to escape. Clarity cuts away everything that is not aligned. It removes hesitation. It removes compromise. It removes the old pattern that keeps you small. Most men think clarity is something you wait for. They wait for the perfect moment, the perfect feeling, the perfect sign. But clarity is not found. Clarity is created. The moment you commit, clarity begins to form. Decision produces clarity. Commitment sharpens clarity. Movement reinforces clarity. The field responds to the signal of a man who has chosen. Look at the moments in your life when you felt unstoppable. They were not the moments when everything was perfect. They were the moments when you knew exactly what had to be done. You were aligned. Your thoughts, emotions, and actions were unified. And because you were unified, the field moved for you. Clarity is alignment. When your thoughts and actions are in conflict, the field senses contradiction. But when your thoughts, your words, and your behavior say the same thing, your frequency becomes undeniable. The field cannot ignore a unified signal. That signal becomes a command. The field does not need detail. It does not need explanation. It needs direction. It needs certainty. It needs the emotional conviction of a man who knows where he is going even before the path appears. Clarity does not come from analyzing every possibility. Clarity comes from eliminating options that do not match your purpose. Clarity begins the moment you say, "This is who I am, this is where I am going, and this is what I refuse to tolerate." The field responds to standards, not dreams, not wishes, standards. A standard is a boundary. A standard is a declaration. A standard is a line that defines the level you will operate from. When you raise your standard, the field adjusts. When you lower your standard, the field follows. The field does not care which direction you choose. It will always mirror you. Clarity is not just mental understanding. Clarity is emotional precision. It is the intensity with which you believe in your identity. It is the frequency of certainty that penetrates the subconscious and radiates into the field. You cannot fake clarity. The field knows the difference. It reads your tone. It reads your posture. It reads your decisions. When clarity is present, fear cannot lead. Fear may whisper, but clarity speaks louder. When clarity is present, hesitation cannot control you. Hesitation may appear, but clarity keeps you moving. When clarity is present, uncertainty loses its power because clarity is stronger than doubt. The field responds to conviction. When you believe in the outcome before you see it, the world reorganizes itself around that belief. The circumstances shift, people shift, opportunities shift, paths open, resources appear. This is not magic. This is alignment. Clarity is the ultimate form of focus. It turns the subconscious into an engine instead of an obstacle. It transforms your thoughts into instruction. It transforms your emotions into fuel. It transforms your habits into a system. Clarity collapses the distance between who you are and who you are becoming. The man without clarity spends his life reacting. He waits for direction from the world. He waits for proof. He waits for permission. He lives as a follower of circumstance. But the man with clarity creates circumstance. He becomes the source of his direction. He becomes the architect of his destiny. He becomes the signal the field responds to. Say this with firmness. The field responds to clarity. My identity speaks louder than the world. My direction is precise. My signal is aligned. Your life begins to transform the moment you stop hoping and start declaring. The moment you stop drifting and start deciding. The moment you stop asking for permission and start giving instruction to the field. Your future is not waiting on luck. It is waiting on clarity. When your inner world aligns with your decision, the field aligns with your identity. The field does not reward the man who tries. It rewards the man who chooses. The field does not answer the man who doubts. It answers the man who declares, and it will answer you when you speak with clarity. There is a voice inside you that is not your past, not your fear, not your limitation. It is not the internal critic that repeats old patterns. It is not the restless mind that reacts to the world. Beneath the surface, there is a higher intelligence, a deeper authority, a mastermind within. And when you learn to access it, your life stops being a product of chance. It becomes the result of intentional direction. This mastermind is not separate from you. It is the part of your identity that already knows what you are capable of. It is the architect of your intuition. It is the intelligence behind your decisions. It is the voice that speaks when everything is quiet. And it has always been there, waiting for you to access it. Most men never hear this voice because they are too distracted by noise. They fill their mind with the opinions of others. They let the world decide their direction. They drown their inner intelligence with entertainment, with fear, with doubt. They live in reaction instead of creation. They listen to the world, but ignore themselves. The mastermind within is not loud. It does not shout. It does not argue. It speaks in clarity. It speaks in certainty. It speaks in stillness. And to hear it, you must turn inward. You must develop the discipline of listening to yourself instead of the world. Great thinkers did not find wisdom outside. They found it within. Every breakthrough in history was guided by the mastermind within. The ideas that shape reality were not discovered by accident. They were accessed. They were listened to. They were recognized. The mastermind within is the subconscious in its highest form. It is the intelligence that connects thought and desire. It is the part of you that sees beyond logic. It understands the field. It understands alignment. It understands identity. When the conscious mind cannot find solutions, the mastermind within already knows the path. This higher intelligence is activated by belief. It awakens when you speak with authority. It strengthens when you commit to your direction. It responds when you decide who you are. Because the mastermind within does not follow fear, it follows identity. When you say, I am the type of person who finishes what I start, you activate the mastermind. When you say, I am becoming the man I have chosen, you activate the mastermind. When you choose clarity over confusion, you activate the mastermind. It begins to guide you. It begins to influence your thoughts. It begins to shape your reality. The mastermind within works in silence. It does not need attention. It does not need applause. It needs only one thing from you: alignment. When you align your thoughts, your beliefs, and your identity, the mastermind becomes your greatest ally. Many people look for mentors, but the most powerful mentor you will ever have is already inside you. It is the mastermind. And when you learn to trust it, your life changes. You stop begging for answers. You stop searching for validation. You stop depending on external forces. You begin to operate from internal authority. The mastermind within is not imagination. It is the subconscious working with infinite intelligence. It is the part of you that sees possibility when others see limitation. It is the part of you that pushes forward when others give up. It is the part of you that remains calm when the world becomes chaotic. This mastermind works through suggestion, through repetition, through belief, through silence. It needs space. It needs clarity. It needs instruction. When you give it a clear direction, it begins to organize your reality around that direction. It opens paths. It reveals opportunities. It strengthens your resolve. You do not need to know every step of your journey. You only need to know the next one. The mastermind reveals the next step. When you are aligned, it does not reveal everything at once, because you grow into your destiny one decision at a time, one commitment at a time, one identity at a time. The mastermind within is activated by three forces: decision, silence, and belief. Decision tells the subconscious who you are. It cuts away confusion. Silence gives the mastermind space to speak. It removes distraction. Belief gives the mastermind power to act. It awakens the field. When these three forces converge, the mastermind becomes undeniable. You begin to receive impulses, ideas, insight, and direction that seem to come from nowhere. That is not coincidence. That is the mastermind. You begin to meet the right people at the right time. That is not luck. That is alignment. You begin to rise into a future that once felt out of reach. That is not chance. That is identity. Every night, when you sit in silence and speak your aim, you are conversing with the mastermind. Every time you visualize your future with clarity, you are instructing the mastermind. Every time you declare your identity with conviction, you are programming the mastermind. This is the highest form of inner guidance. The mastermind within does not care about your past. It cares only about your direction. It cares only about your identity. It cares only about the signal you are sending into the field. Say this with authority. The mastermind within is awake. The mastermind within guides me. The mastermind within builds my future. When you trust this intelligence, you no longer walk blindly. You walk by design. You walk with the strength of inner clarity. You walk with the confidence of identity. The mastermind within is the key to every shift in your life. And when you listen to it, you do not need permission. You do not need approval. You do not need the world to agree, because you already know where you are going. The mastermind within has already shown you. Silence is not the absence of sound. Silence is the presence of power. It is the space where the noise of the world disappears and the voice of your identity becomes undeniable. Silence is not empty. Silence is alive. Silence is the temple where you meet yourself without distraction, without performance, without the expectation of others. The temple of silence is where transformation begins. During the day, your attention is scattered. The world pulls at you from every direction. People demand your energy. Technology demands your focus. Your mind becomes layered with opinions, emotions, and fear. Your clarity becomes diluted. Your identity becomes blurred. That is why you must step into the temple of silence. It is the place where you return to your origin. It is the place where your highest intelligence becomes visible again. Most men fear silence. They avoid it because silence strips away illusion. Silence confronts you with truth. Silence shows you what you have been hiding from. Silence reveals the beliefs you have been avoiding. It exposes every weakness, every excuse, every broken story. That is why weak men run from silence. But a man who is ready for transformation enters silence like a warrior entering sacred ground. Silence is not passive. Silence is active. In silence, the subconscious listens. In silence, the subconscious reorganizes. In silence, the subconscious receives instruction. Silence is the chamber where you architect your future. This is why silence must be treated as sacred. It must be approached with intention. It must be respected. The temple of silence is built with 4 pillars: stillness, awareness, identity, instruction. Stillness is the decision to stop running, to stop distracting yourself, to stop reacting to everything outside of you. Stillness allows the nervous system to reset. It removes the fight you have with your thoughts. It opens a space where clarity can rise. Awareness is the moment you see yourself without distortion. You observe your thoughts without judgment. You allow them to pass. Awareness is not about control. It is about understanding. It is about seeing what is true. Identity is the voice that emerges in silence. The deeper identity that is not shaped by fear. The identity that is not shaped by the world. The identity that has always been there beneath every layer of doubt. Instruction is the command you give your subconscious. The direction you speak into the field. The identity you choose to bring forward into the next chapter of your life. When you enter the temple of silence, you step into a different dimension of power. You are no longer reacting to the world. You are shaping it. You are no longer waiting for clarity. You are creating it. You are no longer living by accident. You are living by design. The temple of silence is built every night. It is not a place in the world. It is a place in yourself. It is built when you close the doors of distraction, when you remove the noise, when you step into your inner self and speak the command that shapes your next reality. Sit in silence, dim the lights, slow your breathing, let the world fade, let the noise dissolve, let time soften. Step into the temple with one intention: to meet the part of you that cannot be broken, the part of you that has survived every storm, the part of you that has always been strong. Silence is where the world cannot touch you. Silence is where fear has no authority. Silence is where doubt loses its power. In silence, you are no longer a product of your past. You are the architect of your future. Notice what rises in silence. Vision rises. Intuition rises. Identity rises. You begin to see the future with clarity. You begin to feel the direction you must move. You begin to understand what must be released. You hear the voice of the mastermind within, and that voice is not loud. It is calm. It is certain. The temple of silence does not require hours. It requires presence. It requires that you show up with full awareness. The world trains you to fill every second, to avoid stillness, to avoid reflection. But the temple trains you to pause, to listen, to become intentional. This is why silence is sacred, because silence is where the external world loses its influence and the internal world takes control. The temple of silence is where identity is remembered, where the subconscious is instructed, where the field is shaped. Most breakthroughs do not happen in conversation. Most breakthroughs do not happen in noise. They happen in silence. Think of the greatest decisions you have made in your life. They did not come from panic. They came from stillness. Think of your deepest wisdom. It was not born from fear. It was born from silence. In the temple of silence, you do not escape life. You confront it. You do not hide from your truth. You honor it. You do not avoid your vision. You amplify it. Silence is not retreat. Silence is preparation. The temple is not a place of weakness. It is the birthplace of strength. In silence, you give your subconscious the instruction it needs. You speak your identity. You visualize your direction. You repeat your command. But more than anything, you listen. You listen to the voice of your future self. The voice that already knows the path. The voice that speaks when the rest of the world sleeps. Say these words in the temple. I return to myself. I step into silence with power. I give instruction to my destiny. My identity speaks louder than the world. When you practice silence, everything changes. Decisions become clearer. Fear becomes smaller. Identity becomes stronger. Alignment becomes natural. The temple becomes your source of power. And no matter where you go in the world, you carry that temple with you. Silence is not about emptiness. It is about fullness. It is about presence. It is about connection with the highest version of yourself. The temple of silence is where you cleanse the mind, where you release the day, where you anchor yourself in certainty. This is the secret only those who rise understand. The world changes for the man who enters silence with intention. His inner world becomes his command center. His outer world begins to obey. The temple of silence is where destiny is shaped, where identity is carved, where power is restored. Walk into the temple with confidence. Sit in stillness. Honor the silence. It is the most sacred ground you will ever stand on. Repetition is not routine. Repetition is not habit. Repetition is the mechanism through which identity is carved into your subconscious. The nightly repetition is the single most powerful discipline that separates men who drift from men who rise. Every night you speak your future into your subconscious. Every night you repeat the identity of the person you have chosen to become. Every night you imprint a deeper command into the field. The nightly repetition is where transformation stops being an idea and becomes a law. During the day, you fight against distraction, fear, noise, and demands. You negotiate with the world. You face uncertainty. You confront your limits. But the night belongs to you. The night is where you return to your origin. The night is where your subconscious listens without resistance. The night is where you plant the seeds that will grow into the next version of you. The average man ends his day with reaction. He carries the stress of his failures into sleep. He mentally rehearses everything that went wrong. He lets anger, regret, and fear shape his final thoughts. And then he wonders why his life repeats. His night is programming his identity backward. His nightly repetition is strengthening his weakness. But you are not here to repeat the past. You are here to repeat the identity of the future. The nightly repetition is the refusal to end the day in weakness. It is the decision to end the day in strength. It is the sacred moment where you reclaim control of your subconscious before you sleep. Repetition is how the mind is conditioned. Repetition is how belief becomes instinct. Repetition is how identity becomes unbreakable. The nightly repetition is the internal training of your character. It is an act of inner mastery. Understand this truth. The subconscious does not need proof. The subconscious needs instruction. It does not follow logic. It follows the dominant signal. It follows the thoughts and emotions you repeat again and again. And the nightly repetition creates that signal. You speak your identity until the subconscious has no choice but to obey. You speak your purpose until the subconscious begins to shape your reality around that purpose. You speak your future until the subconscious cannot remember the old self. That is how you change your life. The nightly repetition is not about speaking many words. It is about speaking the right words. It is not about loudness. It is about certainty. It is not about passion alone. It is about consistency. You could miss a day of work. You could miss a day of exercise. But you cannot miss the nightly repetition, because the nightly repetition is where your future is carved. This ritual is simple. Sit in silence, slow your breathing, collapse the noise, return to your identity, speak your future in the present. I am the type of person who follows through. I am the type of person who acts with clarity. I am the type of person who does not quit. These words are not affirmations. They are commands. Do not speak them quickly. Do not speak them emotionally. Speak them with the weight of a man who knows what he is building. Speak them as the identity that has already arrived. Let each repetition land in your subconscious like a hammer shaping steel. Night after night, the repetition engraves identity. The first night feels like effort. The second night feels like practice. The 10th night feels like foundation. The 30th night feels like truth. The subconscious begins to shift. Your energy changes, your confidence strengthens, your habits adjust, your decisions begin to match your identity. The nightly repetition removes doubt. Doubt cannot survive repetition. Fear cannot survive repetition. Weak identity cannot survive repetition. The subconscious cannot hold two identities at once. When you repeat the identity of strength every night, the old identity begins to fracture. Most men fail, not because they lack potential, but because they do not repeat their identity long enough. They quit too early. They speak their future once and expect change. The subconscious does not transform in a moment. It transforms through repetition. The nightly repetition is how you persist into the man you have chosen. Repetition is the greatest proof of belief. If you repeat something long enough, the subconscious assumes it is truth. If you repeat weakness, you become weakness. If you repeat strength, you become strength. The nightly repetition is where you choose which version of yourself becomes unquestioned reality. The subconscious receives instruction most powerfully at night, when the world is quiet, when your mind is still, when your defense is lower, when your identity is exposed. This is the window where the nightly repetition shapes your future. The world sleeps. The subconscious works. You enter rest not as the man you were, but as the man you are becoming. This is why the nightly repetition must be protected. No phones, no noise, no distraction, no conversation that weakens you. Guard your final hour like a temple. The nightly repetition is not entertainment. It is construction. It is the building of a new identity. The nightly repetition is the ultimate act of self-respect. It is the moment where you say, I take my future seriously. I do not leave my destiny to chance. I instruct the subconscious. I repeat my identity. I commit to the future I am building. Repetition is the engine of transformation. You become what you repeat. You become what you rehearse. You become what you say to yourself every night. The nightly repetition is not a ritual for the weak. It is the discipline of the man who refuses to drift. If you repeat a command every night for 90 days, your subconscious cannot resist it. Your identity will shift, your behavior will align, your reality will follow. That is not philosophy, that is law. The nightly repetition is the activation of that law. Say these words calmly. My identity strengthens every night. I repeat the truth of who I am. I program my subconscious with certainty. I am becoming inevitable. The nightly repetition is your declaration to the field. It is the signal that says the man I am becoming is not a wish. He is real. He is rising. He is built through repetition. And when the subconscious accepts that identity, the world begins to rearrange itself to match it. Night after night you return. Night after night you speak. Night after night you engrave identity. The nightly repetition is not about perfection. It is about persistence. It is about discipline. It is about alignment. This is the truth. No matter how chaotic your day was, the night belongs to you. No matter what you face, the night belongs to you. No matter what has challenged you, the night belongs to you. The nightly repetition will always be your strongest advantage. It is where you build your future while the world sleeps. Repeat with clarity. Repeat with conviction. Repeat with identity. The nightly repetition will rewrite your character. It will strengthen your belief. It will shape your destiny, because the subconscious does not resist frequency. It obeys it. And the nightly repetition is the highest frequency of the man who transforms his life. Burning desire is not motivation. It is not excitement. It is not the temporary spark that appears when life is easy and disappears when resistance shows up. Burning desire is the fire that lives beneath the surface of your character. It is the foundation of every achievement, every transformation, every empire ever built by human hands. Without burning desire, no method will work. With burning desire, even the impossible becomes inevitable. You can learn the principles of success, study every strategy, repeat every affirmation, and visualize every outcome. But if you do not carry the fire inside, you will quit the moment the world tests you. The mind obeys the strongest feeling you hold. And burning desire is the highest voltage emotion a human can generate. When desire burns, the subconscious listens. When desire burns, identity shifts. When desire burns, reality moves. The men who changed history never waited for proof. They never needed approval. They never asked permission. They moved because desire was their fuel. They woke up when others slept. They persisted when others collapsed. They rose when others surrendered. Because burning desire made them unavoidable. Look at any turning point in your life. It was never logic that pushed you forward. It was never certainty. It was never perfect timing. It was desire. The moment you wanted change so deeply that staying the same became unbearable. The moment you refused to tolerate the old identity. The moment you said enough and something inside you ignited. Burning desire is the force that transforms hope into command. Hope waits, desire demands, hope hesitates, desire acts, hope wonders, desire moves, hope says maybe one day, desire says now. Burning desire does not negotiate. It does not pause. It does not ask for permission. It breaks through resistance. It pierces discomfort. It refuses to be denied. Every great victory is born from the fire in the soul, not the strength of the body, not the intelligence of the mind. The fire. The world teaches you to lower your desire, to stay realistic, to be safe, to choose comfort. But comfort is the slow poison of destiny. No man who lived in comfort ever changed himself. No man who waited for the world to approve him ever rose. The life you want will not arrive through gentle wishing. It arrives when desire burns so strongly that excuses become unacceptable. Burning desire is the force that collapses fear. Fear cannot survive when you want something more than you want comfort. Fear loses its voice when the fire speaks louder. Fear only commands the minds of men who have forgotten what they want. But when you want something with your entire being, fear becomes fuel. Burning desire is not chaos. It is clarity in motion. It is the moment you choose one path and close the door to every other. It is the inner oath, spoken without hesitation. I will do whatever it demands. I will become whoever I must. I will not be stopped. You cannot fake burning desire. You cannot imitate it. You cannot copy it. It is born from within. It is the voice of the soul. And when it speaks, the subconscious pays attention. It rewires your identity. It restructures your habits. It bends your reality to match the fire. Understand this. When desire burns, discipline becomes natural. When desire burns, repetition becomes habit. When desire burns, decisions become simple. You stop fighting yourself. You stop overthinking. You stop delaying. You act. Most men fail not because they lack the ability, but because they lack the desire. They want the result, but not the transformation. They want the reward, but not the discipline. They want the identity, but not the sacrifice. But the man with burning desire does not care about difficulty. Difficulty becomes the signal of growth. Challenge becomes the sign of destiny. Look at your life right now. Look at what you tolerate. Look at what you accept. Look at what you allow. That is the measure of your desire. Your life is the reflection of what you wanted, strongly or weakly. If you want a new life, you must ignite a new desire. Burning desire is not emotion. It is commitment. It is the decision to never return to the old self. It is the inner command that says, I refuse to shrink. I refuse to settle. I refuse to betray the future that is calling me. Burning desire is how you speak to the field. It is how you signal what you are prepared to become. The field does not respond to small desire. Small desire creates small results. The field responds to burning desire because burning desire is certainty. It is clarity. It is truth. When you carry this fire, your subconscious cannot sleep. Your ideas change. Your speech changes. Your habits change. Your opportunities expand. You begin to attract what aligns with your fire and repel everything that does not. Burning desire turns your identity into a weapon. You wake up with purpose. You speak with authority. You move with certainty. You stop waiting for motivation. Desire becomes your fuel. Let this be clear. Every result you want requires a price. The price is not money. The price is not time. The price is desire. And most men are unwilling to pay it. They want convenience, not commitment. But you are being called to something higher. Burning desire is the engine behind every law of the subconscious. Affirmation without desire is weak. Visualization without desire is fantasy. Repetition without desire is empty. But the moment you ignite the fire, everything becomes possible. Because desire is the signal that tells your subconscious this is more than a thought. This is a command. Say these words with calm authority. My desire is my power. I do not hide my hunger. I do not shrink my vision. I allow myself to want what I am destined for. Burning desire is not desperation. It is ownership. It is the declaration that you have chosen your future. It is the inner vow that you will not betray the life you were meant to live. When desire burns, you do not ask if you deserve success. You demonstrate it. When desire burns, you do not wait to feel ready. You create readiness. When desire burns, you do not need proof. You become the proof. So let the fire rise. Let the desire expand. Let it move through every part of who you are. Do not fear wanting more. Wanting more is the beginning of transformation. Wanting more is the language of the soul. Wanting more is the fuel of every man who ever changed his world. Repeat this and let it become truth. Burning desire is my foundation. Burning desire is my power. Burning desire shapes my destiny. Because with burning desire, the world has no choice but to respond. Detachment is one of the most misunderstood powers in human transformation. People hear the word and they think of apathy, indifference, distance, coldness. They think detachment means giving up, stepping back, surrendering your desire, or abandoning your purpose. But true detachment is the opposite. True detachment is control. True detachment is spiritual composure. True detachment is the discipline of a man who has chosen his direction so clearly that he does not need to cling to the outcome. Detachment without apathy is the state of mind where you desire with intensity and yet you are not ruled by anxiety. You act with focus and yet you do not demand immediate results. You commit your identity without allowing fear to interrupt the process. You pursue the goal, but you do not chase it. You walk forward without gripping the future with desperation. Detachment is power because attachment is fear. When you attach yourself to the result, you begin to doubt, you begin to worry, you begin to question the process, you begin to pressure yourself. You begin to collapse every time something moves slowly. You begin to believe the outcome controls you. But the truth is simple. You are the cause, the result is the effect, and the effect must follow the cause. Detachment is the discipline of staying in the cause. You speak the identity, you follow the ritual, you take the action, you repeat the belief, you enter the silence, you perform the practice, and then you release. You let the field respond in its own timing, not because you want to wait, but because you understand that the seed grows in silence. A farmer does not dig up the soil every morning to check the seed. He plants, he waters, he protects, and he waits because he knows the law. This is the law of detachment. If you keep checking the soil, you kill the seed. If you keep asking where is the result, you weaken your identity. If you keep measuring every movement of your life, you interrupt the transformation. You do not grow faster by force. You grow faster by faith. Detachment without apathy means you want the result so deeply that you are willing to let the universe deliver it in its own sequence. Wanting without clinging, acting without obsessing, moving without forcing. This is not laziness. This is certainty. The man who is attached is afraid. The man who is detached is confident. Understand something that most people never learn. The need to control everything is a symptom of doubt. The need for constant reassurance is a lack of identity. The need for instant results is a fear of patience. Detachment collapses all of that. Detachment is the internal voice that says, I know the law is working. I know the identity is forming. I know the transformation is happening even if I cannot see the proof. Detachment is the ability to release control over the timing while maintaining full control over the action. You do not stop working. You stop worrying. You do not lower your standards. You remove the anxiety that blocks the process. You do not shrink your vision. You remove the fear that slows your progress. A man with detachment is dangerous because he has no need for approval. He does not need the world to validate him. He does not get shaken when the world stays silent. He does not need signs or comfort or applause. He knows that what he speaks into his subconscious is already taking shape. He knows that every repetition strengthens identity. He knows that momentum builds in silence long before it shows in results. Detachment without apathy is the spiritual skill of holding your desire without letting it control you. The man who chases his desire like a desperate animal loses his dignity. The man who walks with his desire like a king moves the world. The world cannot manipulate a man who is detached. You cannot be controlled by failure if you are not afraid of it. You cannot be delayed by setbacks if you are not attached to instant results. You cannot be broken by silence if silence is your ally. You cannot be stopped by the pace if you understand that growth is happening even when it is invisible. Detachment does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop panicking. Detachment does not mean you abandon your desire. It means you trust your desire. Detachment does not mean you stop moving. It means you stop clinging. Let this be clear. Attachment is the greatest source of suffering. You attach to the timing. You attach to the reaction. You attach to the opinion of others. You attach to the old identity. You attach to the need for certainty. An attachment becomes a chain. It locks you to fear. Detachment breaks the chain. Detachment says, I no longer need to see proof because I am the proof. I no longer need to feel the change because I am the change. I no longer need the world to respond immediately because the world cannot ignore identity forever. Detachment without apathy is the highest level of emotional maturity. You become immune to impatience. You become unmoved by temporary silence. You become unaffected by delays. You become committed to the greater law. And the law always rewards the man who refuses to abandon his identity. Detachment is the final test of belief. Anyone can desire. Anyone can speak identity. Anyone can visualize. Anyone can repeat affirmations. But only the man who can detach without losing fire has mastered the process. Because detachment is trust. Detachment is certainty. Detachment is spiritual alignment. Let this principle become a command in your subconscious. You must work with desire, but rest with faith. You must pursue your goal, but detach from the timing. You must give your identity, but release the outcome. You must execute your vision, but abandon the need to control every step. So speak this truth calmly. I am the type of person who does not cling to results. I do not chase outcomes. I release fear. I act with certainty. And I allow success to unfold because I have become the man who cannot be denied. Detachment is not distance from desire. It is confidence in desire. It is the quiet authority that whispers, I have already spoken my command. I have already planted my identity. I have already done the inner work. Now I let the law arrange the outer world around me. This is how the unstoppable rise. Not by force, not by rush, not by desperation, but by detachment without apathy, by choosing calm over panic, by choosing faith over fear, by choosing identity over impatience. Detachment is not the end of effort, it is the beginning of flow. When you detach, you stop fighting the current and start moving with it. You stop resisting the process and start trusting it. You stop interrupting the law and start obeying it. This is how you hold power without tension. This is how you desire without suffering. This is how you pursue without fear. This is how you build without doubt. Detachment without apathy is the discipline of the man who does not bend under time. He does not collapse under silence. He does not shrink under uncertainty. He simply moves. He simply believes. He simply becomes. The path of transformation is not built on wishing. It is built on becoming. Wishing is passive. Becoming is active. Wishing asks for change. Becoming embodies change. Wishing hopes for a different future. Becoming walks into it as if it already exists. Most people spend their lives wishing. They wish they had more discipline. They wish they had more confidence. They wish they had more wealth. They wish they had more clarity. But wishing has never built a man. Wishing has never altered destiny. Wishing has never transformed identity. Wishing is the language of the old self. Becoming is the movement of the new one. There is a moment in every journey where you must make a decision. You stop asking life for permission. You stop waiting for the perfect moment. You stop praying for conditions to change. You decide that you will become the version of yourself that your future demands. This is the point where transformation begins. not when you want the change, when you become the change. The truth is simple. You cannot rise while remaining the same. You cannot step into a new life while carrying the habits of the old one. You cannot embody confidence while repeating the identity of doubt. You cannot claim success while thinking like a man who expects failure. Transformation is not a negotiation. You cannot bring your old limitations with you. You must leave them behind. Becoming is the act of identity. You act as the person you intend to be. You speak as that person. You move as that person. You choose as that person. You think as that person. You make your decisions from the perspective of your future self, not your past one. You build the identity from within first, and then the world responds to that shift. The world does not reward wishing. It rewards embodiment. Because the subconscious does not obey weak desires. It obeys identity. The moment you begin to act like the person you want to become, the subconscious begins to reorganize your beliefs, your emotions, and your instincts to match that identity. Becoming instead of wishing is the highest form of inner authority. It is the moment you tell your mind, this is who I am now, and you reinforce that identity through daily action. Wishing says someday, becoming says now. Wishing waits for someone else to change the direction. Becoming takes control of the direction. There is a reason why some men create breakthroughs while others stagnate. It is not because they are more intelligent or more gifted. It is because they stop asking for success and they start behaving as if success is inevitable. They embody the identity of a man who cannot fail. Their actions are not random. Their discipline is not conditional. Their focus is not temporary. They commit fully to the future they have chosen. Becoming requires courage. Wishing requires nothing. Wishing is cheap. Becoming is a price. The price is repetition. The price is discipline. The price is consistency. The price is belief when no one applauds. The price is the ability to say, I am this person, long before the world recognizes it. But that is the only path that leads to transformation. You are not defined by your past. You are defined by the identity you choose now. If you treat your future as a wish, it will always stay a possibility. If you treat your future as a decision, it becomes a direction. Becoming is a direction. Becoming is the path. Becoming is the shift from hoping to embodying. Look at the structure of your day. Every decision either reinforces your old identity or builds your new one. The moment you choose discipline, you shape the new self. The moment you hold your focus, you strengthen the new self. The moment you return after a setback, you validate the new self. This is becoming one decision at a time, one action at a time, one moment of alignment at a time. You do not become the new version of yourself in a single moment. You become through accumulated decisions repeated day after day. You rise through the repetition of identity. And this is where most people quit. They want the transformation without the becoming. They want the results without the discipline. They want the future without renouncing the past. But the law is absolute. You cannot receive what you have not become. Becoming is not pretending. It is not a performance. It is not a mask. It is the deliberate internal acceptance of a new version of yourself. You act as the highest version of yourself until there is no difference between acting and being. You choose your identity before you earn it, and then you earn it through consistency. The moment you shift from wishing to becoming, you no longer ask if it is possible. You understand that the process makes it possible. You no longer wait for external validation. You understand that identity precedes evidence. You no longer measure every day by results. You measure by alignment. When you become instead of wish, you stop chasing your future. You begin embodying it here and now. That is why the universe responds to the man who becomes. That is why opportunity gravitates to the man who acts. That is why the world opens its doors to the man who embodies his future. Not because he deserves it, because he decided it. Becoming is the moment you stop being a spectator and you become the architect. You take your life out of the hands of chance and place it into the hands of your will. You no longer live reactively. You begin to move deliberately. You stop hoping things will work out and you become the person who makes them work. There is a deeper truth beneath all of this. Wishing comes from fear. Becoming comes from conviction. Wishing avoids responsibility. Becoming accepts it. Wishing needs proof. Becoming creates it. Wishing keeps you small. Becoming demands expansion. The old self wishes. The chosen self becomes. So let this become your command. Stop wishing. Start becoming. Stop hoping. Start embodying. Stop dreaming of a better version of yourself. Start acting as him now. Every belief you repeat, every habit you follow, every decision you make, every thought you allow, every action you take, they are all either keeping you in the story of the old self or building the identity of the new one. Becoming is not a destination. It is a state of being. It is the willingness to step into the unknown. It is the courage to walk without guarantees. It is the strength to pursue without seeing the full path. It is the discipline to say I will become even when my circumstances say I cannot. That is the difference between the man who rises and the man who remains. The journey is simple. You choose the identity. You act as the identity. You repeat the identity. You become the identity. Stop waiting for the world to change. Stop waiting for the moment to be perfect. Stop waiting for the old self to give up control. Do not wish for transformation. Become the transformation. A man does not receive the life he wants. He receives the life he becomes. There is a moment in every transformation where impatience becomes the greatest enemy. Not failure, not resistance, not temporary setback. The greatest threat to growth is the urge to keep checking the seed. The moment you dig up the soil to see if anything is happening, you break the process. You destroy what you planted. You interrupt the law that was already working for you. Stop checking the seed. Stop digging up your desire to measure how far it has grown. Stop asking the question that kills momentum. Where is it? Why is it not here yet? Why is nothing happening? Those questions do not come from faith. They come from fear. They do not come from identity. They come from doubt. They do not come from clarity. They come from insecurity. The seed grows in silence. The seed builds in darkness. The seed takes shape in the unseen. The roots form where no one is watching. And if you are wise, you will understand that every great transformation follows the same law. First you plant, then you wait. Not without action, but without obsession. Not without persistence, but without panic. Not without belief, but without emotional chaos. The world has conditioned you to expect instant results. Fast outcomes, immediate feedback, a reward for every effort. But nature does not care about your impatience. The field does not follow your schedule. The subconscious does not obey your anxiety. Growth follows the law of foundation first. The unseen must strengthen before the visible can rise. When you check the seed every day, you become the enemy of your own growth. You doubt the process. You collapse identity. You weaken faith. You tell the subconscious that you do not trust what you planted. And the subconscious will always obey the dominant emotion. If your dominant emotion is fear, then fear becomes your reality. If your dominant emotion is faith, then faith becomes your structure. You are not rewarded for being impatient. You are rewarded for being consistent. You are rewarded for watering the seed when nothing has sprouted. You are rewarded for tending the soil when no one applauds. You are rewarded for believing in the unseen long before it becomes visible. The universe does not move for people who demand proof. It moves for people who act as if the proof is already inevitable. Stop checking the seed. Plant, water, protect, repeat. Let the law work. Think about a farmer. He does not plant a seed one night and expect fruit in the morning. He does not panic after 3 days of silence. He does not dig up the soil to check the roots. He respects the process. He trusts the law. He knows that growth begins long before it can be measured. The seed is building. The roots are forming. The foundation is preparing. The visible result is the final stage, not the first. The man who understands this becomes powerful because he does not collapse under silence. He does not question the law. He does not demand confirmation at every step. He lives in alignment instead of anxiety. You must understand something most people never learn. The more you check the seed, the longer it takes to grow. Energy that should have gone into becoming becomes wasted in measuring. Focus that should have gone into action becomes consumed in fear. Identity that should have strengthened becomes weakened by doubt. Stop checking the seed. You are not meant to monitor the progress every moment. You are meant to trust it. The moment you plant your intention, you must detach from the timeline. The moment you plant your identity, you must detach from the outcome. The moment you plant your desire, you must detach from the fear. Detachment is not giving up. It is giving space for the law to work. It is protecting the process you have already set in motion. It is letting the field reorganize reality without you interrupting with panic. Every time you check the seed, you ask the wrong question. Is it working? The correct question is simple. Am I aligned? Am I watering the seed? Am I proving my identity through action? Am I returning night after night to the ritual? If the answer is yes, then you are already successful. Success is not a moment. It is not an explosion. It is not a sudden event. Success is the effect of thousands of silent acts that the world never sees. It is the result of decisions you repeated when no one was watching. It is the harvest of identity you planted long before there was fruit. Stop searching for instant transformation. Every overnight success was years in the making. Every breakthrough was the result of a foundation built in silence. Every victory was first a seed. You do not need to monitor the clock. You need to master the process. You do not need to demand the timeline. You need to trust the law. You do not need to force the result. You need to become the man who deserves it. The effect will always follow the cause, but the cause must be given time to mature. The seed does not rush. The roots do not panic. The process does not fear silence. Every time you check the seed, you are sending a message to your subconscious that you are not the man you declared yourself to be. Your subconscious responds only to certainty, only to repetition, only to belief. If you want the subconscious to obey, you must hold your identity steady during the silent phase. The silent phase is where greatness is built. Not when people praise you, not when results arrive, not when everything is obvious, but when nothing is happening. When progress is invisible, when faith is the only evidence you possess. If you can persist through the silence, you can achieve anything. If you can stay aligned through the unseen, you can shift any reality. If you can hold identity without constant validation, you become unstoppable. Stop checking the seed. Let the roots grow. Let the law unfold. Let the field respond. Let the identity mature. When you constantly check, you weaken. When you constantly doubt, you delay. When you constantly measure, you interrupt. Plant once, believe always, do the work daily, return every night. This is the discipline, this is the law, this is the transformation. Growth is happening whether you see it or not. Change is forming whether you feel it or not. Your identity is expanding whether you recognize it or not. Do not collapse under silence. Silence is the proof that the work is internal. The seed does not grow in the sunlight, it grows in the soil. You do not need to see results to continue. You need to continue to see results. The harvest arrives only for the man who stopped checking the seed and started trusting the season. Say this to yourself now. I plant. I persist. I do not dig up my future. I do not interrupt the law. I let the seed grow in silence. This is the mindset of the man who masters the field. This is the identity of the one who becomes. Forget instant validation. Forget panic. Forget the need for reassurance. Stop checking the seed. Let the unseen do what only the unseen can do. The moment you stop checking is the moment you start growing. The identity you are searching for is not waiting in the future. It is not something you must earn. It is not hiding behind success or approval. The identity already exists. It has been there since the first moment you felt the desire to change. You are not becoming someone new. You are removing everything that is not you. You are uncovering the version of yourself that has been waiting beneath the doubt, the hesitation, the fear, and the noise of the world. Identity is not built from outside in. It is revealed from inside out. Every breakthrough begins with the realization that you are already the person you wish to become. The change is not in acquiring something new. The change is in accepting what has always been there. The seed does not become a tree by wishing. It becomes a tree by unfolding its nature. It already contains the blueprint. The future is inside the seed. Your identity is the same. The greatest illusion of self-transformation is the belief that you need something more before you can start. Another skill, another sign, another permission, another moment. This belief is the trap. This belief is the delay. This belief is the enemy of your potential. You do not need more. You need less. Less fear, less waiting, less hesitation, less attachment to the old story. When you desire change, it is because the identity already exists within you. The subconscious has already felt the new frequency. The field has already received the signal. Your future has already begun its formation. The only question now is whether you will align with it or resist it. You resist when you cling to your old habits. You resist when you hold on to your old thoughts. You resist when you replay old narratives. You resist when you continue to act as the man you no longer want to be. That resistance is not protection. It is self-sabotage. It keeps you trapped in the familiar. It keeps you small. It keeps you repeating patterns you have already outgrown. But when you accept the identity that already exists, you collapse the distance between who you are and who you become. You stop chasing transformation. You start living it. You stop asking for confidence. You embody confidence. You stop waiting for permission. You give it to yourself. Identity is not a wish. Identity is a decision. You choose who you are, and life adjusts around that choice. The subconscious does not obey hope. It obeys command. It obeys repetition. It obeys certainty. The moment you declare, "I am the type of person who follows through," you are not describing a dream. You are revealing the identity that already exists. Every action you take confirms it. Every repetition reinforces it. Every night you return to the ritual, you are proving that your new identity is not temporary. It is not a phase. It is truth. And when the subconscious receives that truth, it begins to build your reality around it. Identity is the architect. Action is the confirmation. Persistence is the proof. The world eventually reflects the identity you hold, not the one you speak casually, but the one you speak repeatedly. Not the one you imagine sometimes, but the one you embody always. What you believe about yourself determines what you allow yourself to experience. If you believe you are not ready, you will never take the step that proves readiness. If you believe you are not worthy, you will never accept the opportunities that rise for you. If you believe you are not capable, you will never discover the power that has been waiting inside you. But when you accept the identity that already exists, you no longer need to force change. Change unfolds naturally. You do not try to become, you are. You do not hope to succeed. You execute as success. You do not wait for confidence. You behave as confidence. The identity leads. The world follows. Look at every great transformation in history. The identity came first. The evidence arrived later. The belief came first. The proof arrived later. The declaration came first. The reality arrived later. Carnegie saw himself as a builder long before the world agreed. Ford carried the identity of a leader while others called him a mechanic. Edison called himself an inventor when his ideas were nothing more than failures on paper. They did not become great men and then identify as great men. They identified as great men, and the world eventually aligned with that identity. They did not wait for the world to convince them. They convinced themselves. The identity already existed. Stop telling yourself you need more. Stop telling yourself you are missing something. Stop telling yourself you must wait for the right moment. The right moment is the moment you decide. The identity is activated when you accept it, not when you earn it. Identity is not a reward for achievement. Identity is the cause of achievement. When you speak like the man you want to be, you begin to think like him. When you think like him, you begin to act like him. When you act like him, you begin to experience his life. This is the law of identity transmutation. You speak it, you feel it, you repeat it, until the subconscious has no choice but to obey. The subconscious does not care about your past. It cares only about your emotionalized belief. The subconscious does not care who you were. It cares only who you choose to be now. The identity already exists. You have seen glimpses of it every time you felt that inner pull, every time you had a moment of clarity, every time something inside whispered that you were meant for more. That was not imagination. That was recognition. You were not imagining your future. You were remembering your potential. You were not predicting a destiny. You were awakening an identity that has been waiting for your acceptance. The identity already exists. If you want to change your life, stop trying to transform into a different person. Become the man who has always been there beneath the noise, the rituals you perform, the words you repeat, the silence you enter, the decisions you make. They are not creating a new you. They are revealing the true you. Say this now with conviction. The identity already exists. I am becoming who I already am. I am stepping into the version of myself I have always known was possible. I am removing the old story. I am walking into my true self. You are not building reality from scratch. You are aligning with the blueprint that has always been there. The identity already exists. You are not discovering something new. You are remembering something true. The moment you accept that truth, you collapse the distance between desire and reality. You become the man you were meant to be. You step into the future that has already been written inside you. The identity already exists. Your only job now is to live it. There is a limit to motivation. There is a point where inspiration fades. There is a moment where excitement breaks. Every man reaches it. Every dream eventually confronts the wall where passion is no longer enough and emotion cannot carry you forward. The men who fall here are the men who rely on feeling. The men who rise here are the men who rely on persistence. Persistence beyond motivation is the law that separates those who talk about transformation from those who live it. Motivation is the fire that starts the journey, but it is persistence that finishes it. Motivation is emotional. Persistence is identity. Motivation is unstable. Persistence is a system. Motivation demands energy. Persistence produces energy. Motivation says do this when you feel ready. Persistence says do this because this is who you are. Motivation depends on the external. Persistence comes from the internal. Motivation listens to comfort. Persistence obeys conviction. Every transformation demands that you cross the threshold where your progress is no longer fueled by temporary excitement, but by the deeper force of identity. The world is filled with men who begin with intensity and vanish with excuses. They are moved by emotion. They collapse under pressure. They commit when conditions are perfect and disappear when conditions shift. They speak of greatness but live in hesitation. Their actions are controlled by their feelings. And because feelings change, they change with them. But the man who persists beyond motivation has mastered the highest discipline. He does not wait to feel ready. He acts regardless. He does not seek inspiration. He embodies it. He does not depend on momentum. He creates it. He does not require a spark. He is the flame. Persistence is the ability to return to your purpose. Even when your mind is tired, your body resists, or the world distracts. Persistence is the art of repeating what works until it becomes who you are. It is a form of spiritual loyalty. You stay loyal to your future even when your emotions betray you. You stay loyal to your identity even when your comfort fights you. You stay loyal to your intention even when results are silent. The man who persists beyond motivation has something deeper than passion. He has principle. He has rhythm. He has commitment to the process that does not break when feeling fades. He has built systems that operate even in the absence of inspiration. He does not rise only on his best days. He rises especially on his worst. You must understand that greatness is not built in the moments you feel powerful. Greatness is built in the moments you feel nothing and act anyway. Anyone can move forward when energy is high. Anyone can take action when emotions are aligned. Anyone can push when excitement is fresh. But persistence is proven when excitement disappears. There will be mornings when your mind tells you to delay. There will be nights when your motivation is gone. There will be days when you do not want to continue. These moments do not define failure. They define identity. The question is not, do you feel motivated? The question is, do you continue? Persistence beyond motivation is the death of the old self. It kills the part of you that needs permission. It kills the part that seeks comfort. It kills the part that collapses under resistance. It kills the part that asks for a break instead of demanding completion. Motivation is the beginner's fuel. Persistence is the master's discipline. The beginner waits for emotion. The master depends on habit. The beginner hopes for clarity. The master creates clarity. The beginner only moves when inspired. The master moves because movement is who he is. You must decide which man you will be, the man who follows feeling or the man who follows principle, because you cannot wait for passion every day. Some days you will feel nothing, some days you will feel doubt, some days you will feel resistance. But resistance is not the signal to stop. Resistance is the signal to return. Return to your routine, return to your system, return to your identity. Return even when the mind says not today. Return even when the world is loud. Return even when nothing happens. This is the discipline of persistence. Consistency is the language of greatness, not intensity, not emotion, consistency. The world respects the man who can repeat. The field responds to frequency, not performance. The subconscious obeys repetition, not excitement. Identity is not formed in a single moment of inspiration. It is formed through the act of returning over and over and over again. Every night you align. Every day you execute. Every moment you choose the identity you declared. That choice is persistence. It is the silent power of men who do not fall back into old patterns. It is the steady rhythm of action that does not break. Do not measure your progress by how you feel. Measure it by how you continue. The greatest shift happens when you stop chasing the spark and start becoming the electricity. Motivation is temporary. Persistence is permanent. Motivation comes from the outside. Persistence comes from within. Motivation demands that you wait. Persistence demands that you move. The man who persists beyond motivation becomes unbreakable because he has disconnected his progress from his emotion. He does not obey his feelings obey him. His will is not a request, it is law. Stop chasing motivation. It will not carry you far. Replace it with a deeper force, identity, ritual, self-command. This is how you continue when emotion does not show up. Say this clearly: I act without permission, I move without motivation, I persist because persistence is who I am. The world does not reward the man who starts. It rewards the man who refuses to stop. And you cannot get to that level through excitement alone. You build it through action that continues, through repetition that does not break, through commitment that does not collapse. Every transformation reaches a point where emotion can no longer sustain you. That is the moment you discover which version of yourself is in control, the one who needs to feel ready, or the one who is ready regardless. Become the man whose will is stronger than his emotion. Become the man who chooses the act over the feeling. Become the man whose movement does not depend on energy but on character. Persistence beyond motivation is not about pushing harder. It is about mastering the inner voice that used to stop you. It is about becoming the architect of your action instead of the servant of your emotion. You are either controlled by the short-lived fire of inspiration or the lifelong flame of persistence. One burns fast, one burns forever. Select the flame that never dies. The identity you are stepping into does not rely on motivation. It relies on consistency. It relies on decision. It relies on the discipline of returning. You rise because you decided to rise. You continue because you decided to continue. You persist because persistence is your nature. The man who understands this principle can outlast anyone. He does not need to feel powerful. He becomes powerful through repetition. Say it now. I move when motivation disappears. I return when emotion fades. I persist because this is who I am. That is the law. That is the identity. That is the breakthrough. Stop trying to fix the man you were. Stop trying to repair the identity that failed you. Stop trying to salvage the past version of yourself as if it holds your future. The old identity is not meant to be improved. It is meant to be replaced. The man you were is the reason you want to change. The man you were created, the limitations you are escaping. The man you were built, the patterns you are breaking. You do not ascend by adjusting the old self. You ascend by building the new one. Every time you focus on fixing the old identity, you remain trapped in it. You reinforce the story. You strengthen the memory. You give power to the weakness. You give attention to the pattern. And whatever you give attention to grows. If your attention is on the past, you relive the past. If your attention is on the old self, you repeat the old self. If your attention is on what was broken, you stay broken. Transformation comes from construction, not repair. Creation, not restoration. You build the new man, brick by brick. You build him in thought, in habit, in identity, in action. The old man has no future. He was the version of you that lived in doubt. He was the version of you that surrendered to fear. He was the version of you that hesitated. That version of you was necessary only to reveal what must change. His purpose ends where your new identity begins. The world tries to convince you to heal the old wounds, to solve the old fears, to repair the past. But the past does not hold the blueprint for your future. The blueprint lives inside the man you are becoming. The new identity is not an upgrade of the old. It is a replacement. The past cannot guide you to the future because the past does not know the future. The future does. The new identity already sees what the old identity could not. The new identity already believes what the old identity refused. The new identity already behaves at a higher level. It operates from clarity. It executes from alignment. It moves without hesitation. You do not heal the old man by fixing him. You heal him by outgrowing him. The strongest force in the universe is the identity shift. When your identity changes, you no longer fight the old behavior. You simply cannot return to it. You do not need to resist old habits. You become the man who no longer desires them. You do not need to wrestle your weaknesses. You become the man who no longer carries them. The old self was built on fear. The new self is built on authority. The old self was built on reaction. The new self is built on command. The old self was built on survival. The new self is built on vision. The question is not, how do you fix the old version of you? The question is, who must I build next? Because identity is not a repair project. It is a construction site. The foundation is desire. The tools are discipline and repetition. The blueprint is the identity you have already declared. Every night, you are not fixing the old self. You are programming the new one. Every affirmation is not to repair the past. It is to build the future. Every visualization is not to heal the old story. It is to embody the new story. The mind does not transform by correcting errors. It transforms by installing new truth. When you try to fix the old man, you stay energetically tied to him. But when you build the new man, the old one collapses on his own. You cannot live as two identities at the same time. When the new one rises, the old one loses power. Stop asking, how do I fix what was broken? The answer is simple. You become someone who no longer breaks there. Stop asking, how do I heal old fear? You become someone who no longer vibrates at that frequency. Stop asking, how do I stop repeating mistakes? You become someone who cannot make them anymore. The new identity does the work for you. The reason most people never change is because they are trying to evolve while clinging to a dying version of themselves. They treat transformation like a repair job. They patch the cracks. They repaint the walls. They stay in the same house and call it a new life. But when the foundation is old, no amount of repair will make it new. You build a new house. You build a new identity. You build a new reality. You do not climb back into the ruins and decorate the past. You walk out of it and build something greater. The world is built by men who abandoned the weaker version of themselves long before the world believed it. Ford did not improve. The version of himself the world doubted. He replaced him. Edison did not repair the identity of failure. He created the identity of the inventor. Carnegie did not fix the identity of the poor man. He constructed the identity of the builder. Do not fix the old man. Leave him behind. Every time you say, I am the type of person who follows through, you are constructing the new structure. Every time you return to your nightly ritual, you are reinforcing the new foundation. Every time you act in alignment, you are strengthening the new identity. The new man is not formed by the absence of weakness, but by the presence of direction. This is the law. The old identity crumbles not by force, but by irrelevance. When you step into the new identity, the old one cannot survive. It has no place. It has no voice. It has no purpose. You no longer negotiate with it. You no longer reason with it. You no longer argue with it. You walk past it. The shift is simple. Stop fixing. Start building. The new identity is not born from repairing failure. It is born from replacing limitation. You do not heal the old self, you evolve beyond him. You do not erase the old self, you outgrow him. You do not return to what was familiar, you become the unknown truth. Say this to yourself: I am not fixing the old man, I am building the new man. I replace weakness with identity. I replace hesitation with action. I replace fear with authority. I build forward. I build upward. I build the version of myself that already exists inside me. When you build the new man, the old man dies without resistance. The shift is inevitable. The transformation becomes non-negotiable. This is how you rise. This is how you evolve. This is how you become unstoppable. You do not fix the old man. You build the new man. You finish what you start. This is the final law that separates the average man from the inevitable one. The world respects the man who follows through, not the man who begins with excitement, not the man who talks about big plans, not the man who dreams without discipline. The world respects the man who completes what he sets in motion, the man who finishes. You know this truth inside you. The moments that changed you were never the moments you started something new. They were the moments you decided not to stop. The breakthrough was not the beginning. The breakthrough was the refusal to quit. You did not rise because you felt inspired. You rose because you kept going when the fire faded. You finish what you start because finishing is identity. Starting is easy. Starting is emotional. Starting is temporary. Anyone can begin. The weak begin. The impatient begin. The uncertain begin. But only the man with conviction finishes. Only the man who acts from identity finishes. Only the man who chooses completion finishes. Finish the habits you started. Finish the vision you planted. Finish the identity you declared. Finish the transformation you initiated. Completion is not an accident. Completion is intention. Completion is alignment. Completion is the silent command you give to the universe. I am the man who finishes. Most men never experience the life they want because they stop right before the harvest. They get close enough to see progress, but not close enough to claim it. They leave when it becomes difficult. They leave when it becomes boring. They leave when it becomes silent. But you are not most men. You have already made the decision to rise. You have already planted the seed. You have already built the new identity. You have already returned night after night to the ritual. You have already persisted beyond motivation. You have already become the man who no longer needs to be convinced. Finishing is not about forcing the final moment. It is about holding your ground through the last stretch. It is about continuing when others collapse. It is about showing up when your old self tells you to disappear. The world rewards completion. The field responds to the man who refuses to abandon the process. You must make this your identity. I finish what I start. This is who I am. This is what I do. This is how I live. This is how I move. This is how I separate from the rest. The old identity stops when it gets tired. The new identity continues when it feels nothing. The old identity collapses when conditions change. The new identity adapts. The old identity quits when it gets quiet. The new identity listens to the silence. You are not driven by convenience. You are driven by principle. You are not driven by applause. You are driven by alignment. You are not driven by ease. You are driven by character. You finish what you start because the moment you began, you made a vow. Not to a goal, not to a timeline, not to a plan, to yourself. The moment you started, you made a declaration. This is who I am now. And a true identity never abandons itself. Finishing is how you prove to your subconscious that your new self is not a phase. Persistence is the evidence. Completion is the confirmation. Every time you finish something, you reinforce the belief that you are capable of more. Every time you finish, you expand your threshold. Every time you finish, you strengthen your will. This is how identity becomes instinct. You do not think about quitting. You do not negotiate. You do not collapse. You finish. The more you finish, the more unstoppable you become. You finish goals. You finish commitments. You finish the habits you build. You finish the evolution you initiate. Do not fall into the trap that destroys most men. They begin with intensity and fall apart when consistency is required. They begin strong but finish weak. They start with emotion and end in excuses. You are different. You finish what you start because it is already who you are. You do not operate like the average man. You do not break halfway. You do not fold when the process takes longer than expected. You stay. You continue. You execute. Finishing does not mean perfect. It means relentless. Finishing does not mean smooth. It means certain. Finishing does not mean fast. It means inevitable. The process may stretch you. The silence may test you. The weight may challenge you. But the identity makes you unshakable. Completion is never in question. The moment you declare a path, you honor it. The moment you choose a goal, you complete it. The moment you decide who you are, you remain loyal to that identity. You finish what you start, because this is the final law of transformation. Not desire, not motivation, not talent, not potential. Completion. Every man will start, only few will finish. Only few will endure the full cycle. Only few will cross the finish line. Those few are the ones who build the life others envy. Those few are the ones who build legacy. Those few are the ones who become forces of nature. Be the man who finishes. Be the man who outlasts the obstacles. Be the man who is still standing when everyone else has disappeared. Be the man who continues long after inspiration has faded. You are no longer waiting for the right moment. You are the right moment. Say this with absolute conviction. I finish what I start. I complete what I initiate. I honor the process. I honor my identity. I honor the path I chose. I do not abandon. I do not collapse. I do not leave the work undone. You are not just closing a chapter. You are proving that every part of this transformation was real. You are proving that every step was worth it. You are proving that the man you have become is permanent. You finish what you start, because this is the law of the builder. This is the law of discipline. This is the law of identity. And you have become the man who finishes